Disclaimer. I do not claim ownership of this story, the characters, or the world they inhabit. This is a fan-made project created solely for entertainment and accessibility purposes. All rights and credit belong to the original creators and rights holders. Title: I'm drawing manga in Naruto. Author. Page 21. After glancing at them, he picked out two small posters and handed them to Night Dance. Upon seeing the two posters, Night Dance's face immediately lit up with a joyful smile. Thank you, I'm leaving now. Clutching the poster, he turned and caught up with the group that had been gone for a while. The saddle horse tribesmen who were unloading the goods nearby were already stunned. After hesitating for a moment, they asked, "Young master, one book is enough. Why does he want to buy another one?" Judging by the content alone, one copy is certainly enough to circulate throughout the entire tribe, but if it's for a souvenir? Akabane sighed softly. In my past life, I was often tricked by Lao Ma's series of combo attacks when playing games, and now it's his turn to trick others. Moreover, a mere 100 taels for a book is already a very cheap price. Before long, many more people came to buy comics, and the first 100 spots were quickly reduced to just a handful. When it came to last place, Akabane stood there, his eyes unfocused. I'm so sleepy, but... Footsteps sounded, someone else was coming. Turning my head and looking up, I saw a pair of feet wearing wooden clogs. He slowly moved upwards, dressed in a black robe, with a sword hilt protruding from his shoulder, his face as cold as frost. Who is this? Akabane felt that he looked familiar, but he couldn't remember who he was. Give me a comic book. His tone was indifferent, making it impossible to discern any emotion. Akabane's eyelids twitched, and he immediately picked out a book and handed it to him, hoping that he would leave quickly. Unfortunately, the guest had no intention of leaving. He took the book and stood at the door quietly flipping through it. After reading a few pages, he closed the comic. Is this book about Naruto Uzumaki, or about yourself? Guest, don't joke around. The story is of course about Naruto Uzumaki. I'm not a Jinchuriki. Akabane answered with a faint smile, but in his heart he became more and more certain that the visitor had ill intentions. Not necessarily, the Kurama clan also has demons within them. His tone was cold and his manner aggressive. Akabane felt an immense, terrifying aura surge towards him, making him feel utterly powerless. Is this murderous intent? Inner demons? As expected, you knew. The other person put down the book, their eyes growing increasingly fierce. You know this, yet you still don't work hard, drawing this useless stuff? How could it be useless? It's a culture, and more than that. Akabane pondered a plan while responding verbally. He had already guessed the newcomer's identity, which only made him more cautious. A powerful tool for controlling thoughts. Kurama Akabane, what do you want to do? His sharp gaze was like an unparalleled sword. At this moment in Konoha, only one person would act this way, the darkness of the ninja world, Shimura Danzo. Of course. At this stage, Danzo has only just gone into hiding and has not yet earned the titles of Darkness of the Ninja World or King of the Pot. To be honest, I just wanted to draw, that's all. Even if you asked me to cause trouble, I wouldn't bother. It would be too tiring and pointless. Akabane knew that any attempt to conceal anything from Danzo would only fuel his suspicions. In that case, it would be better to tell the truth. You are very smart. Danzo nodded approvingly, then sighed, he's even smarter than I thought. What a pity. After saying that, he threw down 100 taels of silver, took the comic book, and turned to leave. Danzo didn't reveal his identity, nor did he say everything, but he seemed certain that Akabane would guess and understand what he was talking about. But I really don't understand. Please explain it clearly. Sigh, they're all smart people, but it's tiring to be friends with smart people, and it's even more tiring to be their apprentice. Akabane sighed inwardly. Danzo, who was researching how to secretly control Konoha, would probably immediately realize the significance of this kind of work upon seeing the manga. The darkness of the ninja world is indeed well-deserved. However, what Danzo really wanted was not the manga, but the newspaper. Forget it, let's take it one step at a time. If you really do something to me, don't blame me for retaliating later. Akabane muttered to himself. His idea was indeed very simple, to live a simple and comfortable life in the ninja world. Anyone who made his life difficult would suffer in return. The last ticket, Tsunade, if you don't come soon, I'm afraid we won't be able to save it. Akabane glanced at the hidden box. There was a one-of-a-kind ticket in the box, which was specially reserved for Tsunade. Well, it's no big deal to cheat a little when you organize your own lottery. However, the longer Tsunade was away, the more worried he became about Jiraiya. If his guess was correct, Jiraiya would likely have to go to the hospital when he saw him again. Jiraiya. Just as Akabane was about to feign his sigh, he saw a figure in green leap down from above. Ugh. It's all because of that idiot Jiraiya. I only got back now because I wanted to beat him up. Tsunade was so angry she was jumping up and down. Judging from the bloodstains on her clothes, Jiraiya must have been seriously injured and is likely lying in the hospital emergency room now. Akabane, being quite shrewd, didn't ask any questions, but instead smiled slightly and said, "It's alright, I saved one for you, it's your turn to draw a prize." Really? That's right, you happen to be the 100th one. Since Danzo didn't participate in the lottery before, you have one more chance. The box was taken out, and there was only one sheet left inside. Tsunade reached inside and took out the last slip of paper. After a quick glance, she couldn't help but exclaim, the only poster? Wow, you're really lucky, congratulations on winning the first prize. In an exaggerated tone, a poster that had been rolled up and stored in a paper tube was taken out and placed on the table. This is it? Tsunade's eyes lit up. Just by looking at the length of the paper tube, she knew the painting was large and exquisite, otherwise it wouldn't need such elaborate packaging. When you unfold it, you are immediately struck by its splendor. The paintings on it are breathtaking and unlike anything you've ever seen before. This is... Chapter 27 drew several thousand hands. The painting was very long, spreading out and covering the entire table, and in the painting was a wooden statue. The wooden statue is enormous, covering half of the painting. Against the backdrop of the mountains, it appears even more terrifying. There are thousands of giant hands on the statue, and upon closer inspection, it seems that a person stands proudly at the bottom, the god of ninjas, Hashirama Senju. Title, True Thousand Hands. I heard that the first master had a move called this, so I drew this picture based on my own speculation. I hope it won't disgrace your grandfather. Akabane still held a certain degree of awe for that first-generation master and dared not act too recklessly. Tsunade excitedly put away the scroll, her voice filled with gratitude. Akabane, thank you so much, thank you so much. It just so happens to be your turn. Here's your comic book. Akabane picked out a comic book for her. Tsunade took it, seeing through it but saying nothing. This painting was clearly created for her and kept for her, so the lottery ticket wasn't something that just happened to be hers, rather, Akabane hid it away. Tsunade felt both sweet and excited, and held the scroll tightly for a long time without relaxing. From a young age, Hashirama Senju was her favorite person and her great hero. Tsunade once thought that this man would stand proudly in the ninja world forever. But one day, the hero fell. I've never seen my grandfather use his skills since I was little, so I don't know if this ninjutsu is like this. Maybe my grandmother knows. With the posters and comics in her pocket, Tsunade had no interest in joking with Akabane anymore. Yes, bring one for Grandma Mito. Akabane handed over another book, saying, no need for money, consider it a thank you gift for Granny Mito. I wasn't planning on giving it to you anyway. After being moved for a while, Tsunade reverted to her true nature, put away her comic book, and left with the paper tube. Yun Lang, the lottery is over. Now we just need to collect the money. If any commoner children want a copy but can't afford it, it's fine to give them a few copies for free to pass around. It's only a few hundred taels. Akabane got up, gave some instructions, and prepared to go back and get a proper night's sleep. Yes, master. Kurama Unro, who had previously been in charge of putting the comic books on the shelves, agreed. For the next 2 or 3 hours, he helped Akabane stock the shelves in the store and clearly saw how the transactions were conducted. Moreover, as Akabane said, even if there were any mistakes or omissions, it would only amount to a few hundred or a few thousand taels at most, which the Kurama clan could afford. Akabane was indeed exhausted after several days. These were the most hard-working days he'd had since coming to the Naruto world, comparable to the final exams in his previous life. If he didn't sleep, he'd die from exhaustion. The Thousand Hands Clan. You brat, you should have opened for business today, but you didn't even bring me a comic book earlier. Don't you know your grandma is bored? Mito Uzumaki lay listlessly on the recliner. Even with her immense patience, it took her 3 days to finish reading the first 3 chapters. Grandma, look what I brought. Tsunade's voice came from outside the door. Before Tsunade could enter, Mito Uzumaki suddenly stood up and darted out in a blur. The next second, she was back on the beanbag chair, holding the comic book and a paper tube in her hand. Grandma, why are you taking my things? Those are mine. Tsunade panicked and rushed in to snatch the paper tube back. With a flick of her hand, Mito Uzumaki conjured a spell, and the sealing technique was immediately unleashed. Tsunade, Grandma just wants to take a look, what's the rush? Woo 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 woo. Tsunade wanted to speak, but she was under the influence of a sealing technique unique to the Uzumaki clan, rendering her unable to use chakra and unable to move her body. Mito Uzumaki ignored her adorable granddaughter, holding a comic book in her hands while carefully tearing open one end of the paper tube. The next moment, a scroll emerged from the paper tube. Oh, it's a really big comic book, my dear granddaughter, Grandma will accept this gift. Mito Uzumaki teased him deliberately. Tsunade struggled fiercely within the seal, but unfortunately, Mito Uzumaki was arguably the most skilled sealer in the ninja world, and even a strong genin like Tsunade couldn't escape her grasp. Page 22. In reality, all of this was just a way for Mito Uzumaki to conceal her emotions. Truly thousands of hands. Without a sound, the sealing spell was broken. When Tsunade saw that her grandmother had witnessed the painting, she no longer fought over it as she had before. He used this move in the Valley of the End, just like this. Her voice was slightly somber. Now that person is gone, leaving only echoes, no one in Konoha can use wood release anymore, let alone Sage Art, wood release. Grandpa was probably this handsome back then. Tsunade said in a low voice. Mito Uzumaki smiled but did not answer. She simply stroked the poster, then carefully rolled it up and put it back into the paper tube, handing it back to Tsunade before saying, keep it safe. This painting probably took a lot of effort to create. Tsunade took the paper tube and cherished it greatly. After a moment of reflection, Mito Uzumaki picked up the manga and began reading it from the beginning. For her, these were just everyday memories, but seeing them in the manga made them particularly poignant. There was nothing special about them. It's different for Tsunade. It would be a lie to say that such a large painting wasn't painstakingly created, especially for someone like Akabane who dislikes trouble. The fact that he put so much effort into creating such a large painting shows not only his hard work but also his heartfelt intentions. This is Akabane's grand gift. Stealing the bell, TSK, an old trick, but this kid Akabane actually knows this trick. By the way, who is Kakashi Hatake? Mito Uzumaki flipped to chapter 4 and suddenly asked a question. He is the son of Tsukumo Hatake. Tsukumo? That brat in your class? Mito Uzumaki chuckled. Sure enough, she's a kid. She starts imagining all sorts of characters based on her friends. For her, this comic book was simply a way to pass the time, and this kind of fun was a kind of joy she had rarely experienced after living through so many years. By the way, I heard you beat up a classmate today and he ended up in the hospital? Seeing Naruto get beaten up, Mito Uzumaki suddenly remembered the message that had just come in. Yeah, some idiot got into some pointless pursuit and went to the bathhouse for it. I couldn't help but beat him up. Tsunade was still furious when she talked about Jiraiya. Of course, she had to admire him. Jiraiya may be mentally challenged, but he wasn't entirely without merit when it came to ninjutsu. At least to solve the problem of safe spying, he knew to first learn a relatively concealed earth release technique, and he mastered it very well. Kids, when they're young, like monkeys. This guy knows the telescope technique, but never mind, he's a Hokage now, let's not talk about his embarrassing past. Nito Uzumaki dismissed the matter with a single sentence. What do you mean? Tsunade was confused and didn't understand for a moment. Unfortunately, Mito Uzumaki had no interest in continuing the explanation and was focused on reading the manga in her hands. The third Hokage. Telescope technique? Tsunade didn't quite understand, nor did she want to think about it anymore. She packed her things and prepared to return to her residence. She wanted to frame this poster carefully and not leave it lying around lest it get damaged. It was the first memorable gift she had received from Akabane. After all, it would probably take a long time before the Lazybones could prepare such a gift again. Chapter 28 We graduated. Ah, that was a really good sleep. Akabane slept until the next day, without eating dinner. When he woke up in the morning, he glanced at the system panel. 646 points. The unprecedented points made Akabane's heart race the moment he saw the data. This is only the first day. However, on the first day, big spenders like Danzo, the Hokage, and Mito Uzumaki have already contributed points, so it's almost impossible for them to increase their points so quickly in the future. Akabane thought with some regret. Otherwise, you could get hundreds of points a day. Just thinking about it is incredibly satisfying. Unfortunately, all the ninjutsu available for exchange in the list have already been redeemed. There are quite a few ninjutsu in episode 7, but after being busy for several days, Akabane really doesn't want to fight anymore. Also, I have to go back to school today and meet my teacher for the first time, so I'm destined not to finish episode 7 today. Akabane told himself this, and settled down to relax without a care in the world. He exchanged his points for 12 points of mental strength and then 4 points of physical strength, instantly depleting all the points he had earned. At this point, his physical strength had reached 24 points, while his mental strength had reached a terrifying 63 points. Mental strength is very difficult to train, an average Chunin might only have around 50 points, so he's already stronger than most Chunin. As always, he got up early and soon after leaving home, he saw Lu Ming's figure on the street. Hey, good morning, Lu Ming. Akabane went up to say hello and then followed along. If you want to be neither late nor early, following Lu Ming is the way to go. Lu Ming glanced to the side, then listlessly continued walking forward. What happened? Akaba, have you finished your next drawing? Lu Ming answered when asked. Not yet, probably next week. Akabane has certainly finished drawing the 6th chapter, but he wants to save up 5 chapters to publish a small booklet, so the plot cannot be revealed yet. In fact, even Tsunade hadn't read the content of episode 6. Oh, I see. I have a suggestion. Next time, could you please complete a short story in 1 volume? Leaving it in the middle like this is really frustrating. Lu Ming said angrily. The 5th episode ended right when Kakashi had dealt with Naruto and Sakura, leaving only Sasuke talking back, which made viewers wonder what would happen next. He didn't know the word excerpt, otherwise he would definitely have cursed Akabane, saying that excerpt dog deserves a terrible death. It seems Lu Ming really didn't sleep well last night. Akabane muttered to himself, but despite this, he had no intention of changing his mind. The two walked forward step by step, but when they arrived at the school, he found that class had already started. Sarutobi Nanichi was standing on the podium with a dark face. When they reached the door, he roared, "Damn it, you're late on the last day." Akabane paused for a moment, then remembered Shika was in a bad mood and had slept poorly last night, so he probably miscalculated the time. Looking to the side, Lu Ming also had a blank expression. "Go inside, you bastard. Don't be late for a ninja again." On the very last day, Sarutobi Nanichi didn't want to be too harsh, and his words carried a hint of wistfulness. Today they are students, and even more so, formal genin. As a ninja, punctuality is very important. Akabane bowed slightly, then quickly ran to his seat, where Tsunade sat next to him. Jiraiya had also come to class, but his arm was in a cast and part of his face was covered with gauze, making him look extremely miserable. Today everyone has officially graduated. Here are your headbands. Now I'll announce the group assignments. The first group, Naruto Ch and Akimichi Ichijo. Second group. As expected, the Inoshikacho trio were grouped together, and their instructor was a jonin. Group 6, Orochimaru, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and their instructor, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Sarutobi Nanichi paused here, and the class immediately erupted in a commotion. Lord Sarutobi, it's actually... This is just too much. Many people found it hard to believe, many were shocked, and quite a few were envious and jealous. A good teacher can teach according to the individual's aptitude and bring out the ninja's greatest potential. At present, the strongest teacher is undoubtedly Hiruzen Sarutobi. Moreover, to be personally taught by the third Hokage, what an honor. Everyone couldn't help but look at Tsukumo and Akabane. They were both geniuses, but it was a pity they didn't become disciples of the third Hokage. The gap between them would gradually widen in the future. Group 7, Tsukumo Hatake, Shio Mitarai, Akabane Kurama, led by Danzo Shimura. As Sarutobi Nanichi continued to register, the class fell silent. Danzo Shimura, yet another big shot. A genius is still a genius, but... Many people looked at Jiraiya with envy and confusion. Of the 6, only Jiraiya's place was something that everyone disagreed with. Jiraiya was furious and about to retort loudly when someone punched him on the head from behind, making him howl in pain. Idiot, shut up and listen. Flat-chested Tsunade, you just wait, once I get stronger, I'll beat you up 1,000,000 times over. Jiraiya cursed under his breath. These past few days, all those inexplicable feelings he had for Tsunade have vanished. All that remains is a thirst for and love of art, as well as resentment towards Tsunade. If it weren't for Tsunade, he could have easily escaped the bathhouse unscathed. Even though Akabane already knew that his teacher was Danzo, he was still taken aback. Hatake Tsukumo and Mitarashi Shirsho, one a future White Fang and the other a future ANBU boss, most battles wouldn't require him to engage in hand-to-hand combat, he could simply stay in the back and unleash genjutsu and ninjutsu. This kind of ninja life is absolutely awesome. Akabane thought about it and realized that being a disciple of Shimura Danzo wasn't so bad after all. At least Danzo had real skills, and based on my recent interactions with him, although Danzo's thinking was somewhat dark, he wasn't as perverted as people in later generations. While Akabane was paying attention to his teammates, Tsukumo and Shirsho also looked over at the same time. First group, follow me. The third group. The group exchanged glances, but the voices of several jonin could already be heard outside the door. The big shots have come to pick them up. Before long, most of the people in the classroom had left, leaving only the third and fourth groups. The last 2 rows only had the 6th and 7th groups, that is, Akabane and his 6 friends. Speaking of which, why did I end up in a group with flat-chested Tsunade? Jiraiya sighed listlessly. Come on, Jiraiya, do you want to get beaten up again? Orochimaru put down his book and stretched. Actually, it's quite normal for Jiraiya to be chosen. In terms of taking a beating, there aren't many people in the class who are stronger than Jiraiya. Akabane chuckled softly and said, for example, what would happen if you took a few punches from Tsunade? Upon hearing this, everyone turned to look at Tsunade. They looked at her face, then at her hands, and finally shook their heads in unison, their expressions horrified. The Senju clan's superhuman strength technique is so powerful that it's beyond what people of your level can withstand. Let alone a few punches, a full-force punch might break your bones. And Jiraiya. Looking at it this way, this guy is really capable. Page 23. Even Tsunade herself couldn't help but agree that no one in the class who got beaten up was stronger than Jiraiya. Especially since this guy knows he'll get beaten up, yet he still provokes others with his face that looks like he'll get punched. Having him in the team provides a great deal of protection. Chapter 29 Rules, determined by the strong. Class 7. At that moment, the still young Shimura Danzo walked to the door and called out briefly. Sure enough, it was that strange guy who bought the book yesterday. Akabane sighed inwardly, feeling sorrow for the days to come. Gone. Zishao stood up and walked out first. Danzo did not wait. By the time they reached the door, Danzo had already disappeared at the end of the corridor. When they reached the corner, they found that Danzo had disappeared. No way, it's starting already? Akabane sighed helplessly. This is a test, only by finding him can we become his students. Mitarashi Shirsho said in a deep voice. Let's go ahead and take a look, there's bound to be some clues. Akabane said calmly. Danzo would not leave behind an unsolvable puzzle, because the other party was only testing them, not deliberately refusing to accept disciples. Upon reaching the stairwell, Mitarashi Shirsho scanned the surroundings, quickly fixing her gaze on a corner, and said, Lord Danzo left us a clue. This is a piece of cloth, clearly left behind on purpose. Tsukumo Hataki bit his finger, then pressed his hands together in a mudra and onto the ground. A psychic spell appeared, followed by a dog that appeared before the group. Although it was still very young, it was indeed a dog. Wolf Fong, help us find the owner of this cloth. Wang Wang. The puppy quickly moved forward on all fours, continuing to move along the path. Akabane was immediately relieved. These teammates were all reliable, and he wasn't worried about not being able to find Shimura Danzo. He could happily slack off again. Upon reaching the upper floor, Wolf Fong stopped. Untie. There's probably another trap on the second floor, everyone be careful. Mitarashi Shirsho formed hand seals, and Wolf Fong instantly rose again and headed upstairs. It seems to be an illusion, which is my specialty. Akabane, without hesitation, stepped into the illusionary trap first. The moment he stepped in, dozens of shuriken flew towards him. Illusion release. With his powerful mental strength, he instantly dispelled the illusion, which was not very strong. Continue. The group went upstairs and figured it out. The teaching building had 5 floors, and they estimated that there was a question on each floor. If they could solve them all, they would be able to see Shimura Danzo. The 3rd and 4th levels were full of traps, but everyone passed through them without any trouble. The 3rd layer is a shuriken trap, the 4th layer is a combination of illusion and shuriken trap, and the 5th layer may be even more dangerous. Everyone be prepared. Mitarashi Shirsho said with a solemn expression. The first 4 levels are not difficult, they test one's insight, survival skills, and teamwork. Based on this, the 5th level might be the real battle. How strong was Danzo Shimura? With the war over, Danzo was arguably the greatest figure in Konoha during this era, second only to the 3rd Hokage. Let alone those 3 genin, even 3 chunin wouldn't be able to stop them. Akabane may seem lazy, but he is actually extremely vigilant. They went from the 4th floor to the 5th floor rooftop. There were no traps or illusions, only a figure carrying a knife. I don't have a bell here, only an avatar. The condition is simple, this avatar will only make one move, and the survivor will advance. Of course, I've given you another way. Danzo's tone turned icy and filled with murderous intent as he finished speaking. The terrifying killing intent made the 3 feel like they had thorns in their backs, and countless fears arose in their hearts. On! Mitarashi Shirsho instantly made his move, sending several shuriken flying towards Danzo. However, Konoha-style swordsmanship, Dance of the Crescent Moon. As soon as the voice fell, Danzo had already split into 3, attacking them from 3 different directions. Throw a smoke bomb. All 3 were clones, but Akabane didn't hesitate to have them throw out smoke bombs. Without hesitation, Zixiao and Shuamao each threw a smoke bomb on the ground, instantly enveloping the surrounding area in smoke and dust. Madness. Danzo's indifferent voice came from outside the smoke. Such smoke might obscure the vision of an ordinary ninja, but for a master like him, even the hidden mist technique couldn't block his senses, let alone a mere smoke bomb. He could sense a figure moving upwards. However, below, the presence of 3 people could still be felt. Shadow clone? Of the 3, only one could use shadow clones. Danzo understood what was going on, but he didn't intend to pay attention to it. Akabane's illusion magic is very strong, but you still need to find him, and he could completely choose not to target Akabane. But when the smoke cleared, 3 identical figures stood in the center of the rooftop, and there was another person in the shadows. It was unclear whether he was a clone or the real person. Making good use of the rules is commendable. Laughter rang out, but the killing intent grew even more intense. The three clones continued their relentless attack, hurtling towards the three. Danzo was observing the emotions, and all three of them knew it, but with such a powerful killing intent, who could hold back without revealing the slightest flaw? A single slash, as swift as lightning, struck. Target, the three players on the field. There's no rule that a single strike can only kill one person. Danzo's killing intent was genuine, and his attacks were also aimed at a genuine target. The instant the blade struck, Akabane formed hand seals, illusion technique, Naruto's appearance technique. The hand seals were formed quickly, instantly hitting Danzo, but the opponent immediately broke the illusion. However, that one instant was enough for everyone to react. Substitution. As the blade fell, the replaced shadow clone shattered into fragments. At the same time, Tsukumo Hatake drew his short sword, his Hatake Ryu swordsmanship as swift as lightning, and charged towards Danzo. Zishao paused for a moment, then acted without hesitation, forming hand seals. Fire release dragon fire technique. Tsukumo's sword, Shirosho's fire, and Akabane's potential use of the Kurama clan's illusion techniques from the shadows, this is indeed a crisis for Danzo. However, wind escape great breakthrough. It was a C-rank ninjutsu, but when Danzo exhaled it, it resembled a terrifying tornado, with wind blades hidden within the wind. It swept everything away, unstoppable. Shomao and Zishao tried to dodge, but it was too late. Akabane was under an illusion, and although he broke free in time, the sword was already upon him. Just as the three of them were facing a life-threatening crisis, everything vanished in an instant. You've passed. The clones disappeared, and on Tsukumo and Shirosho's side, with Danzo's appearance, the storm created by the wind-release ninjutsu could not even take half a step forward and gradually disappeared without a trace. Madman. Shiyu's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Just a second before the blade was right in front of him, he could feel the chilling coldness of the blade and the bone-chilling killing intent. Thank you, teacher. Zishao bowed deeply to Danzon with utmost respect. Akabane emerged from the shadows and stood in a row with Tsukumo and Shirosho. That was my first lesson, never believe the rules the enemy tells you, because they can overturn them at any time. Danzo said calmly. The rules are set by the strong. Shuomao had a clear understanding of the truth. I can go back on the rules and make a second or third move, but I cannot kill you, because I am subject to the rules of Konoha. Danzo continued. Akabane nodded to show he understood. Danzo at this time was indeed different. He still had the will of fire and a bottom line in his heart, unlike the later Danzo who was used to darkness and unscrupulous. That's all for today. We'll begin our mission tomorrow. The first lesson ended in a way that Akabane never expected. Unlike Hiruzen Sarutobi, Danzo's teaching was simple and brutal, leaving a deep impression on Akabane. Chapter 30. This person really has a problem. I'm off. Looks like I'll have to continue my cultivation when I get back. Zishao sighed softly. Just one lesson was enough to show that this teacher is difficult to get along with, and life in the future is likely to be a nightmare. Tsukumo didn't speak, but he gripped the hilt of his sword tightly, clearly dissatisfied with today's outcome. I need to go back and rest now. I still have to draw comics. I'm so tired. Akabane said, yawning. How dare you say you're tired? The two listened in silence for a while. The person who sent a clone to do the work should not be qualified to say that word. Akabane's shadow clone technique is no secret among the many clans of Konoha, as the third Hokage has already publicly revealed this technique. However, the risks involved have also been disclosed. It's not just about physical strength and chakra reserves, you also need formidable mental strength, otherwise you might not be able to withstand the terrifying backlash after the shadow clones dissipate. Even if ordinary people learn the shadow clone technique, they still need to be careful when using this skill. At least Zishou and Shuomao can only look on with envy. Back home, Akabane's clone drew the 7th chapter, while he lay in bed with his eyes closed to rest. The Naruto world is really dangerous. I almost died while taking an exam. Page 24. Akabane sighed softly. At this moment, even with his eyes closed, all he could see was that one strike. This was a real battle. The usual sparring was just child's play. I was only facing a clone, and besides, Danzo won't amount to much later on. We must become stronger. He made a decision in his heart. Backgrounds and such are not what Akabane is after. What he wanted was to be the most eye-catching presence in the background, just like Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha in the battle at the Valley of the End. Never mind, I'll get up and draw a few. Akabane struggled to sit up and took a pen to draw a few pictures. Today is the second day since the comic shop opened, but Kurama Yunlang has been helping to sell comics, so he has earned more than 300 points today. Once he finishes Chapter 7, he can exchange for 2 new ninjutsu, the Great Fireball Technique and the Heart-Slaying Decapitation Technique. The next day, in front of the Hokage building, Zishou and Shuomo waited early, but Chiyu did not arrive until half an hour later when they finally saw Chiyu's figure in the distance. Today is the first day, and you're late again. Zishou felt somewhat helpless. I was too tired from practicing ninjutsu last night, so I woke up a little late. Akabane yawned and said, "Liar." Tsukumo sneered, clearly not believing it. It is true. Akabane was helpless, his character was too deeply ingrained, and when he tried to work hard, no one believed him anymore. He worked with his clone until late yesterday to complete episode 7. With the points he gained yesterday, he has now exchanged them for the Great Fireball Technique and the Heart-Slaying Decapitation Technique. The excess points were all exchanged for mental energy. Name, Kurama Akabane. Ninja rank, Elite Genin. Physical fitness, 24, plus. Mental strength, 70, plus. Chakra nature, Yin, fire, earth. Equipment, paintbrush, drawing board. Skill. 5 senses manipulation, 3 body technique, body flicker technique, shadow clone technique, Naraku sight technique, earth release, heart decapitation technique, fire release, great fireball technique. Points, 7. Once the 2 ninjutsu were exchanged, Akabane automatically gained a great deal of insight and automatically learned the fire and earth nature transformations. Of course, Akabane had no intention of revealing that he knew fire release techniques. Fire release techniques are extremely destructive. Each type of fire release ninjutsu possesses immense destructive power, and at this stage, the manipulation of the 5 senses can accomplish most of the attacks. The more cards you have up your sleeve, the greater your chances of survival. Everyone's here. You have a mission now. Go to this location and defeat the people you see. Danzo arrived at the spot, threw down a note, and then used the body flicker technique to leave. Zishou took it. It had a coordinate drawn on it, showing a certain location. Akabane knew his teammates could handle it, so he didn't bother to interrupt in a place he wasn't good at. Tsukumo took the note and examined it carefully. After a moment, he said, "Death Forest. Walk." Zishou used her instantaneous movement technique to head towards the Forest of Death. What the hell? Akabane was helpless. He had been given a mission for no reason on the very first day. Go on a mission. Hatake Tsukumo followed the trail and headed towards the Death Forest. Forest of Death. Orochimaru, Tsunade, and Jiraiya sat on the grass, waiting listlessly. Jiraiya was also bored and couldn't help but say, "Is the old man going to be late today too?" Snatching the bell is a tradition among teachers, and it's probably going to happen again today. Tsunade lay on the grass, shaking her leg as she spoke. Orochimaru, never one to be bored, was quietly reading a book when he paused for a moment and said, "Not necessarily." "Huh? What do you mean?" Jiraiya immediately got up and looked curiously at Orochimaru, the most talented member of the team. "Explaining this to you might take a lot of time." Orochimaru didn't look at him, but said to Tsunade, "Team 7 finished the test yesterday. The teacher hasn't come for so long, the bell is probably gone." A few seemingly unrelated words, but Tsunade understood instantly. "So, we're very likely to run into Shuomo and his 2 companions. I've wanted to beat up the other 2 for a long time, except for Zishou." A competitive spirit flowed through her veins. Tsunade couldn't wait to fight the 3 of them right now. "I just hope the bottom-ranked team doesn't drag us down, otherwise." Orochimaru put away his book and sighed softly. "Before, I was just guessing, but now I'm certain that they've arrived. I'm not a loser." You just watch, I'll beat them. Jiraiya said angrily. He had barely finished speaking when he vanished in a flash. This idiot. Tsunade was stunned for a moment, then couldn't help but burst into a tirade of curses. You find Tsukumo, I'll find Akabane. Be careful. Orochimaru's expression turned serious, and he immediately got up and ran towards the direction of the sound. Tsukumo, fine, I'll definitely teach him a lesson. Tsunade hesitated for a moment, but finally agreed to the decision. Although she was very reluctant, she had to admit that she didn't have a good way to deal with illusions at the moment, and perhaps Orochimaru was better at it. Meanwhile, Akabane and his two companions entered the Death Forest together. Be careful, I sense the presence of chakra. Akabane said. Perception is one of the effects of his enhanced mental strength. The other two nodded to indicate that they understood, and took a few more steps forward. Zishao also sensed the presence. This idiot. Tsukumo's voice was cold as he offered a precise assessment of Jiraiya's actions. His undisguised aura, did he think this was a bathhouse? Akabane covered his face, feeling ashamed for Jiraiya. To a ninja, even though Jiraiya was hiding underground, he was still as conspicuous and eye-catching as a firefly in the night. Take him down first. Zizhao's tone was cold and merciless. We're all old classmates, shouldn't you give us some face? A ninja's primary goal is to complete the mission. Tsukumo agreed with Zishio's words, leaving Akabane helpless. It seemed that he would be eliminated first, just like in the manga. All right. The three of them raced side by side, with no intention of splitting up. Of course. They acted the same way, but for different reasons. Zishio believes that teamwork is the most important thing in combat, while Shuomo prioritizes completing the mission, and Chiyu simply doesn't want to be alone. Anyone who's alone will get caught, that's a principle every gamer knows. Trying to take on two opponents by yourself, even if you don't necessarily get caught, is still exhausting. I don't want to follow the comic book style, those two old men have such a twisted sense of humor. Akabane sighed secretly in his heart. Jiraiya is ahead, hopefully he won't be too stupid, all alone. Drink! Just then, a loud shout came from the ground, and a figure leaped out from below, launching a surprise attack on Mitarashi Shursho. He was incredibly fast, instantly piercing Mitarashi Shursho. However, bang! How could it be wood? Substitution jutsu. How cunning! Jiraiya was so angry that he jumped up and down and turned to leave, but at this moment, Mitarashi Shursho was in front of him, and Tsukumo and Akabane were on the side, blocking all of Jiraiya's routes in a triangle formation. Jiraiya, I must say, you are incredibly stupid. It wouldn't be an exaggeration for the third Hokage to send you back to the Ninja Academy to retake the course. Akabane sighed softly. You are so cunning, you actually ambushed me. Zishao, Shomao, and Chiyu were completely dumbfounded. This guy really has something wrong with his brain. Chapter 31 Illusions of Truth and Deception. Let me go, let me go. Jiraiya, bound like a caterpillar, shouted angrily. Find the next one. With a sudden burst of strength, Zishio hoisted the bound Jiraiya up the tree. Jiraiya might escape, so I want to stay and keep an eye on him. Akabane volunteered to stay. Don't be lazy. Page 25. Tsukumo knew that Akabane just wanted to slack off. Alright, since that's the case, let's not waste any more time, otherwise it will be even more troublesome if they set a trap later. Akabane stood up. Since he couldn't slack off, he could only end the battle as soon as possible. Let's go. As soon as they finished speaking, the three of them disappeared into the forest. Hey, put me down. Don't go. Don't go. Jiraiya was desperate. He wasn't stupid, just a bit slow on the uptake. If things ended like this, he might actually be sent back to school. I want to break free, Damn Zishao, she's tied me up so tightly. Deep within the forest of death, Orochimaru began setting up traps. Aren't we going to rescue Jiraiya? Tsunade was somewhat worried. Given that idiot's personality, he would definitely take on all three of them by himself, and he might have already fallen into a trap. Going to save yourself is a dead end, it's better to live and wait for an opportunity. Orochimaru said calmly. Tsunade remained silent for a moment before starting to help set up the trap. Their mindset shifted, they no longer expected Jiraiya to escape, but only hoped that he could hold on for a few more seconds to buy them time. However, a trap, we're getting close. Chiyu stopped on the tree branch, and Zishao and Shirama also stood on the tree, not daring to land. Who knows how many traps are here? Orochimaru was first in all subjects at the Ninja Academy, and his ability to set up traps was terrifying. I go first. Without hesitation, Shuamao leaped over the tree. I'll support Shuamao, you can provide support as needed. Zishao said calmly. Each member of the trio has a specific role. Shuamao is agile and offensive, and is best at reconnaissance. Zishao is versatile and can handle all kinds of situations, while Chiyu, though not versatile, has the most unpredictable abilities, the strongest survivability, and the strongest ability to restrain others. It is good. Akabane readily agreed, secretly pleased. This is the position he most wants. He only needs to hide in the shadows and launch surprise attacks. There is no need for direct confrontation. It is the perfect job for lazy people. Sakumo ran among the trees, constantly searching for Orochimaru and Tsunade. He stopped 100 paces away, looked around warily, and then said, "Spiritual communication technique. Wolf Fong, help me find the enemies around here." Wolf Fong is still young, but as a ninja dog of the Inuzuka clan, he has undergone special training since childhood and has considerable abilities. But no matter what, even a dog can't learn to climb a tree. When it realized it was in the tree, it immediately cried out in fear a few times. It took a while to stand still, and it looked around warily before finally fixing its eyes on one direction. This direction? Thanks. Shuamao returned the terrified Langya, placed his hand on the white fan shortsword, and quickly headed in that direction. Akabane yawned, then his eyes suddenly sharpened as he instinctively sensed impending danger. You've come looking for me, Orochimaru? All right. In a flash, the instantaneous movement technique was activated. The next second, the branch he had been standing on silently shattered, and Orochimaru instantly appeared, landing and trying to hide again. Earth release, the art of beheading in the heart. Not good. Orochimaru hadn't expected Akabane to have this move, and instantly formed hand seals, using the substitution jutsu to escape. Such fast hand seal speed. Akabane was secretly alarmed, but he was not discouraged by his failed attack, because he had just injected his chakra into Orochimaru's body. Originally, this kind of illusion technique did not require the injection of chakra, but Orochimaru was no ordinary person, so Akabane specially injected chakra to add an extra layer of protection, using it as a coordinate to release the bloodline limit. He appeared in the shadows at that moment, and with a single stroke of his brush, completed the final stroke. Illusion magic, manipulation of the five senses. Orochimaru was instantly trapped in the genjutsu. However, he had experience breaking free from genjutsu before, so he forced himself to feint to break free. A clone was waiting beside him and quickly dragged the unconscious Orochimaru to a safe location. Shadow clone. Before he made his move, he had already devised a foolproof plan for retreat. He's a tough opponent. I knew how to counter him after using him just once. Akabane rubbed his temples, really not wanting to fight anymore. However, since Orochimaru had come looking for him, hiding would only make him look weak, so Akabane used the body flicker technique to attack in the direction Orochimaru had escaped. Don't chase them, let's deal with Tsunade first. Zishio had been walking several dozen steps away when she saw Akabane defeat Orochimaru and wanted Akabane to join her in dealing with Tsunade. However, she then discovered that Akabane had gone to track down Orochimaru. Well, alright, if we hold off Orochimaru, we can still win by taking down Tsunade in a 2-on-1 situation. Zishao didn't dwell on it and continued to attack Tsunade's location. Using the body flicker technique to catch up, he saw Orochimaru, who had just awakened, and his shadow clone in a short while. To be able to learn shadow clone technique in just a few days, you really are a terrifying person. Akabane said with a touch of emotion.
Akabane-kun, shouldn't I be the one saying that? Orochimaru smiled wryly.
He had thought that although Akabane was good at genjutsu and the three-body technique, he would have some shortcomings in taijutsu and other ninjutsu. He did not expect that Akabane would suffer a setback in Earth release. If it weren't for his cleverness, this Earth as a type of escape technique, would have almost cost him his life.
Boom!
With a loud bang, a tree in the distance trembled 3 times and almost fell over.
Tsunade is in trouble too.
Orochimaru licked his lips, his fighting spirit burning brightly.
It seems I have no choice but to deal with Akabane-kun first.
Fighting with you is exhausting, and I'm too lazy to go through all that trouble. Akabane sighed softly, then said, but if I go to Tsunade, you will rescue Jiraiya.
Jiraiya may be a bit dim-witted, but he's not a complete loser.
His taijutsu and earth-style techniques are quite remarkable, and if he were to unleash them, it would cause quite a bit of trouble.
Up! Orochimaru and his clones instantly sprang into action, wielding kunai as they charged toward Akabane.
He's going to rely on his physical skills. Akabane wasn't that brainless. In fact, what remained in the same spot was just a clone, not even a shadow clone.
An illusion.
After only a dozen or so steps, Orochimaru sensed something was wrong and immediately stopped and retreated, heading in the direction where the trap had been set.
However, just then, 2 figures suddenly appeared from the side. Why is Zishio here? No, wait, it's the Narakusite technique. Orochimaru instantly dispelled the genjutsu, something he was always excellent at.
However, after dispelling the genjutsu, he found himself still in the same environment, and the 2 figures in front of him did not stop, continuing to attack him.
Replacement technique.
Orochimaru's instinctive reaction in the face of crisis allowed him to dodge the attack, but the next second he saw the 2 figures pass through the shadow clones who were still in the genjutsu.
Clone technique?
But at that moment, a kudu attacked from behind.
Is it still a clone?
Orochimaru pondered this in his heart, but upon seeing it, he realized it wasn't true.
This is real.
Body flicker technique, smoke bomb, substitution technique. Using ninjutsu and smoke bombs in quick succession, Orochimaru, panting, fled from his original location to a safe hiding place he had set up. It's terrifying how confusing it is, with so many things being said and false. Orochimaru hid in his hiding place, his face covered in cold sweat. He was intelligent to begin with, and from just 2 exchanges, he understood that Akabane was more versatile. The first time it was a clone, the second time a shadow clone, and the third and fourth times it might be a real person. The essence of genjutsu is to disrupt chakra and create illusions, while the Kurama clan adds mental control and the influence of the 5 senses to turn illusions into reality. Facing Akabane, it's too difficult to distinguish between truth and falsehood, but what about the teammates who are trapped here? Orochimaru felt a pang of worry. The commotion has stopped.
Tsunade has been captured? No, it's an illusion.
He immediately realized that it was still controlled by the 5 senses.
Chapter 32: The Ownership of the Lunchboxes. Kurama Akabane's understanding of illusion is beyond my imagination.
In the Hokage building, the 3rd Hokage gazed at the crystal ball, holding his pipe and sighing softly. He was originally very confident in Orochimaru, believing that even if Jiraiya was easily captured, Orochimaru and Tsunade could put up a good counterattack. But now it seems unlikely.
The essence of illusion is deception.
Using illusion and clones to deceive, combined with real shadow clones,
Danzo Shimura wore a subtle expression of admiration, then sighed softly, what a pity. Perhaps he will change after experiencing more.
The 3rd Hokage said calmly.
In their view, laziness is Akabane's greatest enemy.
At this moment, the battle situation in the crystal ball changed again.
Orochimaru, who had not moved in the image, finally woke up, but he was facing a completely new enemy. Mitarai Zishiao. A clone, or an illusion? Orochimaru had just woken up and didn't have much time to think before the person in front of him attacked him.
He instinctively threw a shuriken, which passed right through his body.
Clone.
Orochimaru got up, preparing to leave the relocation site, but the next second another Zishou appeared.
Page 26. Is this another clone?
The relentless attacks left no room for respite, and Akabane's clone technique was so realistic that Orochimaru, with his limited combat experience, could no longer distinguish them.
Wind escape big breakthrough.
He formed a hand seal, and a gust of wind was exhaled from his mouth. However, Zizhao's figure flashed, and she leaped onto the tree branch above the bushes where she was hiding, while simultaneously forming a hand seal.
Oh no, it's true. Orochimaru felt a pang of panic, and at the same time sensed the presence emanating from below. Earth release, heart beheading technique. Earth escape. No wonder Akabane knew where I was. Oh no.
Orochimaru was about to use the substitution jutsu, but it was too late. He was pulled into the ground, leaving only his head sticking out.
It's still a shadow clone. I've lost. Orochimaru glanced at it and instantly understood what was going on.
Mitarashi Shursho was actually just a shadow clone. The real killing move was Earth Release, heart decapitation technique. I used some methods, please forgive me.
Akabane emerged from the ground and watched Orochimaru from the side.
Orochimaru had not researched the Earth Release, Earth Transformation technique and could not use it to escape, so he could only stay there and wait.
He looked up as if deep in thought.
After a long while, he sighed softly and said, "It was a mistake to target you first. If we had used shadow clones to stay here and delay you while our real bodies went to help Tsunade or Jiraiya, we might not have lost this battle.
You did underestimate me, but I'm almost out of chakra. If you stay strong, maybe I won't be able to defeat you."
Akabane smiled lightly.
Orochimaru closed his eyes, not believing this explanation.
In that short period of time, Akabane used Shadow Clone technique twice, Bloodline Limit twice, Naraku Jutsu several times, and Earth Release 3 times.
Such a chakra level far exceeds the range of a genin. Talking to him about pushing things to the limit now? You're kidding me.
The tremors outside have stopped, indicating that Tsunade has abandoned her powerful strength technique and is fleeing. Perhaps she is going to rescue Jiraiya, creating a 2-on-2 situation.
But after Tsunade, who has been greatly exhausted, rescues Jiraiya, will she be able to fight again? Orochimaru was secretly worried. Don't overthink it.
If you try to escape again, I'll be in big trouble.
It's better if everyone stays put. Akabane glanced at him, not wanting Orochimaru to escape.
Orochimaru is still very inexperienced, but he has no doubt that if he relaxes his guard, there is a high probability that the opponent will escape.
Akabane-kun, you are a truly formidable enemy. Fortunately, we are all from Konoha. Orochimaru sighed softly and stopped thinking about it. Each other. The praise from later great scientists gave Akabane a sense of satisfaction, but that was all.
A word of praise is completely disproportionate to the hard work I put in today.
Let me out, I won't leave. Orochimaru moved his head slightly.
It's uncomfortable to be crouched on the ground, and I can't read books.
Wait a minute. Akabane stood up, looked up, and then waved his hand, saying, "Is the third Hokage here?"
I have already rendered Orochimaru incapacitated.
In a real battle, I could have killed him, so he's out of the game.
After saying all this, he released his ninjutsu and pulled Orochimaru out of the pit.
Orochimaru looked up in surprise, then turned his head and asked, "Is the third Hokage over here?"
He's not here, but he can see him. Akabane sat down and said calmly.
Telescope technique? I thought this was a ninjutsu you imagined.
Orochimaru stretched his limbs after escaping his predicament, and then, as expected, he didn't intend to leave. He sat down and began reading intently.
Why do you have books to read every day?
Akabane found it strange and turned his head to look at the contents of the book, but Orochimaru immediately avoided his gaze, seemingly not wanting him to see the title and contents.
It's just some knowledge of ninjutsu. Orochimaru's eyes showed some panic, but his voice remained calm. All right.
Although Orochimaru's lying skills are not yet fully developed and his eyes dart around when he speaks, Akabane sees no need to investigate further, since it is merely a private matter for the other party. One read a book, the other rested, quietly waiting for the other battles to end. I sat there for who knows how long. Orochimaru, Akabane, come here. Hiruzen Sarutobi's voice echoed throughout the forest, suggesting that the battle outside had ended. I have to leave again. Being a ninja is such a troublesome profession. I finally managed to take a short break, but now I have to get up again. Let's go. Orochimaru put away his book, emerged from the bushes, and headed towards the source of the sound, the place where they had gathered that morning. Back home, he would be busy again, so Akabane walked slowly, not in a hurry. Give me some food, I didn't have breakfast. Ugh, Tsunade, you deserve to have a flat chest. Before they even arrived, Akabane heard Jiraiya's voice. Orochimaru left the forest and saw Jiraiya tied to a wooden stake, while Tsunade ate a boxed lunch next to him, tempting Jiraiya as she ate. Orochimaru, this is yours. Suna pointed to another portion on the ground, her voice muffled by the food. Beside her, Hiruzen Sarutobi and Danzo Shimura were already waiting. Hiruzen Sarutobi remained silent, but Danzo gave a cold laugh and said, "Do you think you're qualified to eat?" I'm not qualified to eat this. This belongs to Jiraiya. Orochimaru said somewhat apologetically. Haha, Orochimaru, you finally realized that I'm better than you. Jiraiya laughed loudly, then struggled on the wooden stake. So give me the lunchbox, I'm starving. Oh why? I can't believe it, Hiruzen Sarutobi asked curiously. He really didn't expect Orochimaru to say that, because according to the rules, people tied to trees are sent back to school. This lunchbox represents more than just food, it represents a chance to become an apprentice. If he doesn't become a third-generation apprentice this year, he may not become one in the future. Orochimaru glanced at Jiraiya, then hesitated, as if he were rehearsing his words. Let me speak for him. Simply put, he thinks it's understandable that Jiraiya is so stupid, but he can't forgive himself for being careless and getting defeated by me. Akabane dispelled his drowsiness and explained things to Orochimaru. What? Jiraiya froze, his previous smug expression vanishing completely. He looked at Orochimaru, and the result, the expression on Orochimaru's face undoubtedly confirmed it. In that case, I don't deserve to eat either, since I failed to salvage the situation and was defeated. Tsunade hesitated for a moment before speaking. Mission complete. Go back and cultivate on your own. Danzo turned and left. Well, alright then, third-generation lord, we'll take our leave. Zishao understood that this was an internal matter of Class 6 and had nothing to do with them. Akabane was delighted with this, as it would be a good time to go back and rest, lest any further trouble arise. Chapter 33 What is the gate for? I'm curious, how did you defeat Orochimaru? Back in Konoha village, Zishao remained silent for a long time before finally unable to resist asking the question. Yeah, I'm curious too. Shuo Mao also looked over. We've been in the same class for years, so who doesn't know what Orochimaru's abilities are? He has consistently ranked first in all subjects for several years. Although academic performance does not necessarily equate to ability, as a genius described by the third Hokage as appearing only once every few decades, his combat skills must be quite impressive. Of course, the bigger reason is because I usually seem very lazy and I'm always engrossed in comics. Don't you believe I have that ability? Akabane smiled slightly, put his hands behind his back, and sped forward. Do you think I, Akabane, would let you guess so easily that I am a genius of the Kurama clan? Hey, are you not going to answer? Zishao chased after him, but he found that Chiyu was walking faster and faster. Finally, he used the instantaneous movement technique and disappeared quickly. The two left behind exchanged a glance and remained silent for a moment. Looks like he's angry. Zishao tilted her head, as if she had a guess. It could just be a morbid sense of humor. Sakumo sighed. Based on his limited understanding of Akabane, this guy might actually be after that. To find out the answer, you'll probably have to ask Orochimaru. Back so early? Is the testing finished? Kurama Chiaki was somewhat surprised to see Akabane return.
He was unaware that Akabane had already completed Danzo's test yesterday and become Danzo's student.
After a moment's hesitation, Akabane revealed part of the situation. It's done, and the master has accepted us as his disciples.
Excellent. By becoming Lord Danzo's disciple, you will surely surpass your father in the future. Kurama Chiaki was extremely excited. Danzo was the head of the Umbu and a strong survivor of the Great War. Apart from the Hokage, he was the most prestigious and powerful person in the village. Of course. Aside from hidden NPCs like Mito Uzumaki, whose existence is probably only known to the clan leaders. Yes. Akabane nodded slightly. Every parent dreams of their child becoming successful. Neither Kurama Chiaki nor Kurama Saki were particularly talented, and their achievements in life were limited to this level. However, they saw a brighter future in Akabane. Let the kids go paint. It's not easy for them to have some free time. They won't have this much free time when they have to go on a mission in a few days. Kurama Saki stopped Chiaki from continuing her nagging, saying it was a waste of time. The family is warm and cozy, and most importantly, there are people to prepare meals and change clothes. This is life. Page 27. Akabane sighed for a while, feeling even more that being a ninja was a miserable life. If he could, he wouldn't want to be a ninja at all, but given Danzo's personality, if he stayed in the village, he'd probably be going to be in trouble with Root in a few years. Hey, I finally have a holiday, I should rest well. Lying in bed, he didn't want to move at all, but in order to update. Shadow Clone Technique. The Tool Man was summoned, and after a moment of bewilderment, his gaze gradually settled on the drawing board and the laserbones on the bed. Doppelgangers have no human rights. He sighed inwardly, picked up his paintbrush, and reluctantly began to paint. Don't look at me like that. I need to replenish my chakra, and as the original body, I understand your fatigue too. Akabane sat cross-legged helplessly and began to recover his chakra. After a while, Akabane's chakra recovered more than half and he was about to lie down and rest when he heard a knock-knock-knock sound from the window. Who? Jiraiya? Upon hearing the voice and recognizing the person, Akabane had no choice but to get up and open the window. I opened the window and suddenly heard a strange noise, followed by... Wait. Ah. Oh. With a thud, he stuck his head out of the window and looked down. Jiraiya had fallen to the ground, motionless. Several seconds later, Jiraiya was trembling with pain and finally managed to climb up from underneath. Can't you just use the front door? Do you think my house doesn't have a door or something? Akabane said helplessly. Ninjas, of course, cannot follow the normal path. Jiraiya took several breaths, his hand had just healed, and the fall had made it hurt terribly again. Keep pretending. What do you want from me? Akabane had a pretty good idea of what was going on, it was simply a matter of strength. Coming from humble beginnings, he didn't have many people to turn to for help. Jiraiya glanced at Akabane, then at his shadow clone, and said enviously, "Shadow clones are amazing, Akabane. Can you teach me? If the 3 generations of elders think you are capable of learning, they will definitely teach you." Akabane said irritably. 3rd generation master. Am I really qualified to be your disciple? Jiraiya sat cross-legged on the floor, looking dejected. The test that just ended today was a huge blow to him, to the point that even the usually optimistic man became listless. Akabane hadn't intended to offer any further advice, but seeing his expression, he had no choice but to sit up again. To be honest, he didn't know how to persuade him. Before Jiraiya went to Mount Mayaboku, his talent was indeed very average. Even his best skill, Earth Release, was not particularly outstanding due to various factors. He didn't seem worthy of being the 3rd Hokage's disciple. If he had lost to the 3rd Hokage today, perhaps he wouldn't have been so frustrated. But the fact that the 3 of them lost to the Akabane trio was a huge blow. After thinking it over, he said, "Jiraiya, Orochimaru is a genius, but you were chosen by the 3rd Hokage, so you must have your own merits." Oh? There are 2 kinds of geniuses, one is born with them, and the other is acquired through hard work. Akabane said. Jiraiya pondered for a moment, then suddenly realized and said, "You mean, I'm a genius who achieves success through hard work?" Akabane didn't know how to answer for a moment. The current Jiraiya was too inexperienced, lacked common sense and wisdom, and it was exhausting to explain.
At this moment, the tool man spoke up. "Jiraiya, don't misunderstand.
What we mean is that you can become a genius just by working hard." "I understand. Wait, this isn't the same thing?"
"I'm a genius who works hard.
Yes, as long as I work hard, I can improve and I will definitely surpass Orochimaru."
Jiraiya's mind was shifted from one point to another, and his understanding of Akabane's words became ambiguous.
However, seeing his regained confidence, Akabane and his clone couldn't bear to say anything more.
Otherwise, if their hard-earned confidence were to collapse again, things might really get complicated.
"Thank you, Akabane. I'm going to draw now. I haven't finished my comic yet. I'll come find you to play later."
Jiraiya excitedly climbed out of the window, but fell down after taking only half a step.
"Oh!" With a thud, Jiraiya fell down again.
Akabane sighed. This ordeal had shortened his rest time even further. "Not long after I lay down to rest, I heard rustling sounds coming from the window again, followed by a hand appearing."
"Who is it again?"
Her fair hands were revealed, followed by a head of long black hair. The next second, Orochimaru leaped into the room, his movements undoubtedly more skillful than Jiraiya's.
"Should I take the doors off my house?" Akabane was both helpless and annoyed. Why do these ninjas insist on using the windows instead of the doors? What kind of weird habits do they have?
Orochimaru was a little stunned, and after a long while he said, "Jiraiya said that you would only talk to me if I climbed through the window."
"Why would you believe Jiraiya? Are you really Orochimaru?"
Akabane exclaimed in shock that Orochimaru would actually believe that idiot Jiraiya's nonsense. This time, Orochimaru didn't hesitate and said directly, "I've analyzed your personality, and you probably really won't pay attention to me if you come through the front door."
"Depend on." Ha 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 ha. The man couldn't help but burst into laughter, filling the room with a cheerful atmosphere. Chapter 34, Replacing Questioning with Thinking. "Time is money, my friend, so speak your mind quickly." Akabane didn't want to ramble on anymore, the holiday was precious. Orochimaru hesitated, finding it difficult to speak.
After opening his mouth several times, he finally revealed his purpose. "I would like to ask Akabane-kun to teach me how to use Genjutsu."
"Illusion?"
"My illusion technique is actually very simple, it's just multiple deceptions."
Akabane said calmly. "But how do you know what scenes I saw in my illusion?"
Orochimaru was not proficient in Genjutsu, but he had studied these books. The essence of the Naruto Ch technique is to disrupt chakra and spirit, making the opponent see the image they fear most. How could Akabane be sure that what he saw was him being attacked by 3 people?
Well, proper guidance is necessary. Reasonable guidance? Orochimaru fell into deep thought. "I see.
During the match this morning, what I was most worried about was that you were fainting, making it seem like the 2 of you were attacking Tsunade, but in reality, you were trying to kill me first.
That's why you made that guess."
"There is one reason, but these are the reasons that I was able to determine accurately later. The key is that the illusion was because I could see part of the scene."
Akabane explained. "The bloodline limit of the Kurama clan?"
"A small mistake can lead to a huge error.
Since it involves bloodline limits, this method is not widely applicable."
Even if someone understands how to guide psychology and emotions, they cannot perfectly reproduce the crucial first step.
"I'm sorry, this is all I can do for you," Akabane said. "I should be thanking you, Akabane-kun. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." Orochimaru looked somewhat disappointed and stood up to bow.
After expressing his gratitude, he climbed out of the window and jumped away. Akabane remained silent for a moment, then shook his head slightly, lay down, and closed his eyes to rest.
It's clear that Orochimaru is very disappointed.
The clone said calmly. What he has been pursuing all his life was actually planted in his childhood.
This is true for immortality, and it is also true for the Sharingan. Akabane expressed his feelings.
This will be of great help to me when I draw Orochimaru later. I was so focused on work that I immediately went back to drawing. Speaking of which, we'd better get to the Land of Waves storyline as soon as possible. That part features a lot of ninjutsu and bloodline limits, which will give us more trump cards. Akabane whispered to his clone. If you're in such a hurry, shouldn't you be working with me? That makes sense. Shadow clone technique. Another clone appeared. Akabane finished his ninjutsu and then sat cross-legged again to recover his chakra. Inside the room, the two clones stared at each other, neither speaking. Meanwhile, Orochimaru left the Kurama clan and passed through a forest. He saw Jiraiya in the forest, holding a drawing board in one hand and a pen in the other, diligently drawing a comic. Even Jiraiya has started drawing manga. Is that more important than ninjutsu? Madness. Orochimaru sneered, about to go in and mock him. However, if drawing comics makes you an idiot, then what am I if I lost to Akabane? He froze, then turned and left. Orochimaru has been intelligent and opinionated since childhood, and has always known what he wants, but now he is truly lost. He wouldn't necessarily resent Akabane for this, but could talent overcome bloodline limits? Not sure. Orochimaru wandered aimlessly, and before he knew it, he looked up. Page 28. Hokage Rock. At this time, many people were repairing the statue of the third Hokage at Hokage Rock, gradually revealing it bit by bit from nothing. Is this reasonable guidance? Orochimaru seemed to be deep in thought. This was guidance. Maybe I should give it a try and see what it's like to draw comics. He thought to himself. To understand and guide people's hearts, one must first learn to fathom their hearts, and storytelling is a good way to do this. No, comics are too complicated. All I need is a story. Try it. It seems Orochimaru has overcome his predicament. On the Hokage building, the third Hokage, who had been monitoring the area with his telescope technique, breathed a sigh of relief. Orochimaru isn't as fragile as you think, he's the most suitable person to take over the Anbu. Danzo entered from outside the office, looking confident. Although Kurama Akabane possessed exceptional talent and inherited bloodline, Danzo disapproved of his lazy nature, while he saw ambition and stubbornness in Orochimaru. Ambitious people have the motivation to pursue their goals and become stronger. You are not allowed to touch Orochimaru before the time we agreed upon, otherwise. Hiruzen Sarutobi unleashed his power, instantly creating a tense atmosphere in the office. Keep your weak threats to yourself. You said it a year ago, and it's a year now, humph. Danzo chuckled softly, then turned and left. Back in the Dark Division, he took out the comic book he had bought earlier and started reading it again from the beginning. He had only glanced at it a few times before losing interest and continuing to busy himself with root matters. Now that he had some free time, coupled with Akabane's outstanding performance, he had regained considerable interest in the book. After reading the first chapter, he glanced at the table, seemingly deep in thought. Lord Danzo, is this book really that good? Seeing that even the head of the ANBU was reading this comic, the ANBU ninja responsible for protecting him spoke in a strange tone. The book itself is not important, the author of the book is. Danzo said calmly. Oh? So this is your disciple, Kurama Akabane? Ah. Danzo responded and focused on reading the manga. Episode 2, Episode 3. He quickly finished reading all 5 chapters, closed the book, and seemed to be reflecting on it. My lord, what have you noticed? I asked curiously, the ANBU ninja asked. The tailed beasts are the strongest fighting force in each village, but also the most unstable factor. Konoha has always sealed the strongest 9 tails, and thanks to the Uzumaki clan's physique and sealing techniques, there has never been a problem. However, something happened to the 9 tails in his book, and the successor is a half-blood who knows nothing. Danzo sneered. The pure-blooded Uzumaki clan has always had red hair, so how come there are Uzumaki clan members with golden hair? You mean? He believed that something terrible was going to happen to the Uzumaki clan, something that would nearly lead to their extermination. Danzo said with certainty.
Why? Maybe this is just a story he imagined? The ANBU ninja guarding the side were even more puzzled.
The Uzumaki clan had lived in the land of whirlpools for generations.
Who could possibly attack the Uzumaki clan?
Besides, Akabane is just a child, so what deeper meaning could there be? Replace asking questions with thinking, and also help me collect his latest content so I can see it as soon as possible.
Danzo put down his book and gave a special instruction. Yes. Although puzzled, the ANBU ninja nodded in agreement. After his subordinates left, Danzo picked up the book again and looked at the opening of the first page. The Nine Tails, the Uzumaki clan will target the Uzumaki clan. Danzo took out the map and examined it carefully.
Akabane's manga was just a concept, but inspired by it, he felt that the possibility was quite high. Every husband is not guilty, and he is guilty of his crime. Powerful sealing techniques and terrifying vitality are the reasons why Mito Uzumaki, as a Jinchuriki, lived such a long life. In contrast, the Jinchuriki of other ninja villages met rather tragic ends.
To deal with the tailed beasts of Konoha, we must first cut off the source of the Jinchuriki. The Uzumaki clan is in danger. The Hidden Cloud Village? Or the Hidden Mist Village, or something else? Danzo was lost in thought.
This is something that may not necessarily happen, but as a member of the Umbu and the future root of Konoha, he needs to plan ahead and make arrangements in advance.
Chapter 35 Mission, The Border of the Fire Kingdom. Episode 8 is finally over.
Damn salted fish, next time I think you can just summon them all at once, no need for this trouble. That night, before the two clones disappeared, they both said something to Akabane at the same time.
Wait for me.
Akabane was about to tell them not to disappear in such a hurry, but then...
Bang!
With a bang, the clones vanished simultaneously.
I rely on... Akabane wanted to curse.
These two bastards were definitely taking advantage of his free time that afternoon and were deliberately getting revenge.
She's about to faint.
As he thought about it, his head suddenly felt like it had been hit by a hammer, his skull was about to split open, and he was in excruciating pain. After a while, he sat on the bed, panting heavily.
Damn it, those two bastards.
Akabane gasped for breath, realizing that his clone had been right. His 70 points of mental energy were just enough to bring him to the limit where both clones would disappear at the same time.
Child, who are you talking to?
Xianming's voice came from outside the door.
Talking to himself.
Akabane rubbed his temples as he gave a perfunctory reply. Given Lord Danzo's personality, you'll likely be on a mission tomorrow, so get some sleep.
Kurama Chiaki said through the door. Ah. When Akabane woke up early in the morning, his headache was gone. High mental strength is indeed useful.
It seems that in addition to exchanging for ninjutsu, I should also exchange for more mental strength.
Akabane thought to himself.
Leaving the Kurama clan's territory, Akabane saw Narashikamai, who had gotten up early to go out. That's strange, Lu Ming, you're up so early. Akabane was quite surprised.
Ha, I've never been late for school all these years, you have no right to say I get up late, do you? Lu Ming sneered.
No, you were late once.
Akabane said casually as he walked toward the Hokage building. Holy crap, who's responsible for that?
The only time Lu Ming was late was on graduation day, a memory that still bothers him. Being late is being late, once or several times is the same.
I'm off to catch up on my task.
Akabane instantly accelerated and rushed towards the Hokage building.
Narashikamai was stunned for a moment, and couldn't help but wonder, what time is it now? Are we going to be late if we rush like this?
After thinking it over, he quickened his pace and ran towards the Hokage building.
Wait, why would I go to the Hokage building?
I'm training today. After running a few steps, Lu Ming gradually figured it out.
We're just genin, still in training. What kind of mission could we possibly be on?
Huh, that red feather. His expression was blank, then he looked in the direction Akabane had left with some sympathy.
Following Danzo is really miserable.
Even someone like Akabane has become diligent. If Akabane knew this, he would strongly agree with Shikame's idea.
Following a mission fanatic like Danzo is truly the worst luck imaginable.
As soon as they arrived at the Hokage building, before they could even catch their breath, Danzo had already come out with the mission sheet, followed by Tsukumo Hatake and Shursho Midarashi.
Mission: assist in border patrol. Danzo said calmly. What? Aren't genin usually just helping the villagers with chores?
Akabane was shocked. This guy had access to special privileges.
It's just a sea-level mission.
Your strength is the best this year, so you're more than capable of handling this mission.
Danzo didn't pay attention to Akabane's words. After reading the manga, he had a pretty good grasp of the kid's personality.
She is intelligent and has precocious thinking. Her only flaw is that she is lazy.
Young people always need to be pushed a little. Danzo walked slowly towards the edge of the village. As one of Konoha's top ninjas, Danzo's travels naturally attracted a great deal of attention, drawing many people's attention along the way. Upon reaching the gate, Danzo took out the pass and mission sheet. Lord Danzo is going to participate in border patrols? Ah. Page 29. Danzo nodded coldly, then glanced at the three little ones behind him. The Chunin guarding the gate glanced at Akabane and his two companions, wrote down their names on the travel list, and then cast a spell on the pass. Lord Danzo, please.
Returning the pass means they can leave Konoha village.
Danzo nodded slightly and led the three away. This is the first time I've ever left the village in my entire life,
Zishio said with great emotion. He wasn't particularly talented. He achieved his current success through continuous hard work since childhood.
It's fair to say that Zishio hasn't had much rest since then. They're still just kids, except for this one. Danzo secretly observed that everyone except Akabane was very curious about the outside world.
Even Tsukumo kept glancing around, but Akabane looked like he was about to fall asleep. They have absolutely no curiosity about the outside world. They're overly mature.
Teacher, where are we going? Is it far?
After walking for ages, Akabane felt an urge to resign, assuming that ninjas even had the concept of resignation.
See for yourself. Danzo didn't answer, but threw a map at him.
Akabane took over without asking where it was, because he knew Danzo wouldn't answer.
Forcing people to learn.
The meaning of throwing out the map is obvious. If you want to know, look at it yourself. If you don't understand, just follow along. He examined the map closely. Maps from this era were crude, at best comparable to those of ancient China.
Fortunately, the general outlines were similar. He carefully examined the map and finally determined the location. How come this is the border of the land of whirlpools? Akabane studied the map thoroughly, and his face turned completely pale.
Who knows how long it will take to get from here to the land of whirlpools?
Danzo's a real jerk. What kind of rookie goes on a business trip this far on his third day as a genin? What happened?
Zishio curiously leaned closer, glanced at the map, and exclaimed in delight, the land of whirlpools.
What's with that surprised look on your face?
Akabane looked constipated. Traveling such a long distance and enduring the hardships of travel was hardly a good thing. The land of whirlpools is very mysterious.
Shuo Mao said simply. Mysterious my foot.
You can't fight City Hall. Danzo remained silent from beginning to end, so Akabane had no way to go back.
He was just a low-ranking ninja, while Danzo was the head of the ANBU.
The journey of the four from Konoha to the land of whirlpools would likely take even ninjas a long time.
Danzo appeared to be moving slowly, but in reality, he was fast and swift.
At first, Akabane could keep up, but later Danzo gradually increased his pace.
Danzo wants to test my physical skills?
Akabane pondered to himself, maintaining his current speed, and after a long while, he slowly increased his speed slightly. By this time, Danzo, Tsukumo, and Shursho had already gone quite a distance and were waiting for him in the woods ahead.
If you speed up, you can do it.
Danzo's eyes were cold, as if he could see right through Akabane's thoughts.
This is psychological warfare.
His physical skills had never been revealed, and even Danzo didn't know what level he had reached in physical skills. To be precise, Akabane himself didn't know what level 24 points of physique meant. After trying one more time, Danzo realized that Akabane really couldn't catch up, so he gave up. Having finally managed to conserve some energy through cunning, Akabane pondered Danzo's purpose in bringing them here.
Danzo brought us to the vicinity of the land of whirlpools just for a mission? It can't be that simple.
He pondered to himself, thinking about the situation of Danzo in his later years.
Does he mean to take us to see blood? Akabane was surprised and even more horrified. Danzo has not yet created Root, but the Root Squad already exists.
According to his training methods, once their strength reaches a certain level, they will inevitably resort to killing. Only ninjas who have killed are truly usable ninjas.
If he could, Akabane would just want to be a couch potato and wouldn't want to kill anyone. Chapter 36. We are not thieves. You guys are too weak, you only arrived here at night.
Upon arriving at their destination, Danzo spoke coldly, then pointed to one of the hills, saying, "I have a secret mission. There are bandit groups here trained by rogue ninjas.
I order you to wipe them out."
What?
Zishao cried out in alarm, her face turning pale.
Kill? Tsukumo Hatake gripped the hilt of his sword, looking somewhat nervous and at a loss, but not afraid. A knife is a weapon of death. From a young age, he was prepared to kill.
Are there any ninjas trained by rogue ninjas? Akabane took a deep breath and said.
According to intelligence from the Anbu, they are responsible for supplying the rogue ninjas. There are no ninjas among them, but just in case, I have ordered that men, women, and children be eliminated.
After Danzo finished speaking, he looked at them coldly. I don't want to end up having to help you complete your mission myself.
This. Zishao was terrified and flustered, her face showing hesitation.
He could kill people, but he couldn't accept killing women and children. His teacher, Shuamao, carrying his short sword, got up and headed towards the mountaintop. Patrolling the border and eliminating bandits and robbers who obstruct border crossings is one part of this task.
Akabane sighed softly, took his pen and paper, and headed towards the mountain camp.
Circumstances dictate that even Danzo himself has spoken, and the mission must be completed no matter what. Akaba and Tsukumo will do it no matter what. Shursho, what will you do? Danzo watched them leave for a long time before slowly following behind.
Akabane is mature, and Tsukumo has long been influenced by his family's upbringing, but Shursho is somewhat lacking in both, and his determination is probably not as firm. As they drew closer to the mountain, Akabane could already see the lights on the mountain.
Our teacher wants us to kill children.
It's a hurdle we had to overcome sooner or later, but we're taking the first step. As ninjas, we should have thought of this day long ago.
Akabane said calmly. Although I was panicking inside, I had to keep a calm expression on my face, otherwise what difference would I make from these little kids?
Tsukumo placed his hand on his sword and said, "My father taught me from a young age that a sword is a weapon of death, and ninjas are born to kill." Just like Akabane said, it's a path I had to take sooner or later.
I'd been a ninja since I was a child, and all I ever wanted to do was kill enemy ninjas. Zishao clenched her hands tightly. After all, they are all children. How could they possibly accept the idea of killing children all at once?
If you can't accept this, I'll go up and kill all the children. Shuamao drew his sword, intending to storm the mountain gate.
Let me take care of the children, I'll give them a peaceful death.
Akabane picked up his easel and headed up the mountain. His manipulation of the five senses was enough to make them die without even feeling it.
No, I'm going to do it too. I am not as talented as you. If I back down now, I will always be behind. I don't want to fall behind, I want to become a powerful ninja.
Zishao gritted her teeth, gripped her bitter knife tightly, and took the lead in charging up the mountain. With explosive speed, they reached the mountainside in the blink of an eye, their sharp kunai killing anyone they saw without mercy. Even the most ruthless bandits are still just ordinary people, while the three of them are all elite genin.
How can ordinary people defeat ninjas?
Blood splattered everywhere, and in no time, corpses littered the field.
Run! The ninjas are coming! The ninjas are coming! Can we even leave? We might as well fight. Retreat, there are two ninjas, we can't beat them.
The group on the hill was in complete panic, some wanted to fight, while others dared not.
It was utter chaos. They usually thought they were far from the Emperor's reach and wouldn't attract much attention, but they didn't expect the Konoha ninjas to actually come. It came so quickly, so terrifyingly. Fire style, phoenix flower technique. Flames sprayed out, and countless small fireballs flew in from outside, dancing around the mountain village. Sorcery. This is all sorcery. Run! Run quickly, run quickly! Amidst screams, figures darted through the flames. However, the blade flashed, each strike taking a life. On the back mountain, Akabane sat in the middle of the road, wielding his brush and ink. Mother, why are we leaving? Because the ninjas have arrived. For ordinary people, ninjas are objects of worship, but for mountain bandits, they are death gods who reap lives. And many more. What's ahead? The bandit leader stopped, his eyes wary, and brandished his steel knife, saying, "Kid, get out of my way if you don't want to die." The leader is a ninja. He has a headband on his head, he's a Konoha ninja. Someone screamed in horror. Upon hearing the word ninja, the leader was so frightened that he almost dropped his sword. They had witnessed the strength of the two young ninjas firsthand. The two of them alone had slaughtered the entire stronghold, which was far beyond their capabilities. "Sir Ninja, spare our lives. We had no choice but to flee to the land of fire to rob." Another woman knelt down in front of them, pleading, "We just want to live." Page 30. "I'm sorry, I can't make that decision." Looking around, Akabane saw that apart from a few leaders, the rest were women and children. He didn't stop writing. These bandits had robbed countless amounts of money and killed countless people in the past. It was just that today it was their turn. The background for the painting is already prepared. It is this forest path in the back mountain. With a stroke of the brush, figures appeared in the painting, and then illusions suddenly arose. The illusion was filled with carnage, a silent and painless carnage. "This is the only thing I can do." Akabane deliberately controlled his bloodline limit, erasing most of their pain and causing them to end their lives one by one in a dream. These are all ordinary people. A little extra mental effort won't be much of a burden. A few minutes later, the scroll was torn to shreds. Everyone collapsed to the ground, their bodies covered in frostbite, as if they had been frozen to death. Akabane looked at the mess and remained silent for a long time. He killed someone. Bloodless killing is more terrifying than actual bloodshed, because Akabane felt no ripples in his heart, as if he had merely erased a piece of a painting rather than actually killing a bunch of people. The land of whirlpools is in such a mess. Danzo came here to investigate the situation in the land of whirlpools, right? Akabane wasn't stupid, and knowing about the future, he instantly understood everything. The seeds of Wachao village's destruction were sown long ago. Rome wasn't built in a day. Akaba, you seem to be deep in thought. Have you realized something? A voice came from behind. Danzo Shimura. Akabane turned around, bowed slightly, and after thinking for a moment, said, "Teacher, the land of whirlpools. I want to hear what's on your mind." The turmoil in the land of whirlpools has affected the land of fire. Given the daimyo's attitude towards the land of whirlpools, he is unlikely to be friendly to them. Akabane stated his conclusion. This is not just a memory from later generations, but also a judgment he made based on the current clues. What? Danzo chuckled, formed hand seals, and then exhaled a gust of wind that swept across the land with blades, creating a large crater in no time. Bury it. What do you think we should do next? Danzo said calmly. A question, seemingly asking for advice, is actually more of a test. Akabane pondered for a moment and said, "The land of whirlpools and the land of fire are not allied. Unless Whirlpool Village is in danger, there is nothing we can do." Ha, not bad, I'm appreciating you more and more. Danzo slowly headed up the mountain. Akabane buried the corpses, and only after finishing all this did he return to the mountaintop from the back. Teacher, it seems we can't stay on the mountaintop. We'll have to stay outdoors tonight as well. Akabane surveyed the scene. The mountaintop was a mess, the houses were either stained with blood or burned by flames, clearly uninhabitable. It's fine, as long as I can stay here. Danzo randomly found a room to stay in.
Zishio and Shuomo hesitated for a moment, then settled into the room next door where someone had been killed. Akabane followed them inside and saw that the two of them were deathly pale. The body had been cleared, but the room was filled with the stench of blood, and with someone had just been killed, how could the two of them possibly sleep? I killed many people. Some of them were armed with knives and were real bandits, but many were just ordinary people. Zishao was in unbearable pain, her face showing fear and guilt. At the same time, Shuomo beside her remained silent. We have no choice. From beginning to end, Akabane knew clearly that he had no choice. If he had a choice, he would rather stay in Konoha, never leaving his home, and focus on drawing his manga. But could he do that? The overwhelming force is something even a teacher cannot withstand, let alone us genin. Akabane's words were pointed. At this point, the blood inside the room congealed, emitting an even more unpleasant odor. Chapter 37 Misty Village Rogue Ninja. Did you sleep well last night? The next morning, Danzo got up early and exercised outside. Seeing Zishio and Shuomo leave, he glanced back and a slight smile appeared on his cold face. Not bad. Thank you for your concern, teacher. We slept well. Shuomo replied. I don't know about the others, but Akabane slept very well. Zishao sighed softly, a hint of envy in her voice. He found it hard to believe that someone could not only sleep peacefully in such a blood-soaked room, but also stay in bed for so long. It was truly a Konoha oddity. What? Danzo couldn't help but laugh. For a lazy person like Akabane, walking all day and using his bloodline limit to kill people had taken a toll on both his physical and mental health. Wake him up, we need to patrol the border. Danzo said calmly. Huh? We really need to go on patrol? Akabane's shocked voice came from inside the house. Being too smart is not a good thing, because it makes simple things complicated. Danzo said, come out now, or I'll split you into two groups. Dividing the work into two groups is a good idea. Akabane's eyes lit up as he spoke. Zishao, Shuomo, you go one way, Chiyu will go the other way with me. After saying this, Danzo went down the mountain. Akabane stared blankly, this was not the script he had anticipated. Wait, let's continue on the same route. After running out, Sakumo and Shirsho headed in one direction, while Danzo headed towards the back mountain. I want to travel with Zishio. Before Akabane could even voice his opinion, he had completely disappeared from sight. Forget it, genin have no rights. At the grassroots level, employees always end up doing the dirty and tiring work, which is then euphemistically called training. Akaba, there are merchants passing by ahead. Go and protect them. Heading north along the border from the mountaintop, when they reached a trade route, Danzo stopped and pointed in the direction of the land of whirlpools. All right. If you've already guessed it, then encountering it shouldn't be too surprising. Akabane continued along the trade route and soon arrived at the border between the two countries. A boundary line is drawn here. In the distance, several cars and a group of people were shouting as they fled towards the border of the Land of Fire. Judging from the caravan markings, this is a merchant caravan from the Land of Whirlpools, however. That's Granny Mito's mark? Akabane's eyes sharpened as he noticed a subtle mark in the lower right corner of the caravan's flag, Mito Uzumaki's personal mark. Ah, quick, hurry, escape into the Land of Fire. Forget about the goods, escaping is the priority. At this moment, the caravan leader abandoned his goods and rushed frantically toward the border. Behind them, figures moved about, darting swiftly through the woods like ghosts. Ninja! Akabane's expression turned serious. He had traveled long distances and killed people in the past 2 days, but he had never experienced a real ninja battle, and he was also unsure of the strength of these ninjas. Are you looking for Danzo? No, he must be right there. If he doesn't want to help, there's no point in me going to find him, it would only delay the rescue. Saving lives is urgent, and Akabane had no time to hesitate. When the kunai in your hand gets stained with dye, a single swipe creates a backdrop. The path and the woods were completed in a few breaths, and then dots of black ink were added to refine the lines, and the human figure appeared. We escaped. We escaped. The moment they crossed the border, many people were already exhausted and collapsed. However, the next second, a series of dark figures leaped from the distant forest, shuriken flying everywhere, showing no mercy even to those who had fled to the land of fire. What? Run, run! Hearing the screams, the leader turned around and was horrified to find that the ninjas had not stopped their pursuit. At this moment, Akabane finished the painting in his hands. 5 senses control. In the painting, leaves transform into deadly blades, flying past the throats of several ninjas. The instant of casting the spell. The pain was like being pricked by needles, as intense as the feeling after a shadow clone was destroyed. At the same time, the ninja who had been relentlessly pursuing the attacker suddenly felt blood gushing from his throat. Ho ho! There was no time to scream, only a momentary jolt of instinct and fear. What happened? A ninja has made a move. Page 31. Is that a Konoha ninja? The fact that they could instantly kill several incredibly powerful ninjas meant that the caravan must have had the help of a Konoha expert. Akabane pondered for a moment, then formed hand seals and used the transformation technique to disguise himself as a member of the Konoha Umbu before jumping down from the tree. Are you a caravan from the Thousand Hands clan? These people clearly recognized the ANBU's attire. Upon seeing Akabane appear, they immediately breathed a sigh of relief and recounted the whole story in detail. We are a caravan responsible for trade between the Uzumaki clan and Konoha. This is our pass. The token is displayed. Akabane took it and examined it closely. This token is not much different from the one given to him by Mito Uzumaki. The only difference is that the other party's token is engraved with the marks of Uzumaki and Senju, while Akabane's token has the personal spell mark of Mito Uzumaki. However, just then, from the direction of the land of whirlpools, several kunai flew in from afar, each with an explosive tag hanging from its tail. In the forest, Akabane saw a pair of terrifying eyes. With just one glance, a thought flashed through Akabane's mind: Jonin. He immediately used a substitution technique to escape, then formed hand seals and released an illusion. The art of seeing Naraku. The Kurama clan is undoubtedly the best in Konoha when it comes to using genjutsu, and Akabane's genjutsu, which he obtained from the system, is even more superb in terms of skill. Even if the opponent is a jonin, he will fall for it in an instant. Wind escape great breakthrough. A simple C-rank ninjutsu, but in Danzo's hands it became incredibly terrifying. A gust of wind swept away all the kunai, blowing them back. At the same time, Danzo's figure disappeared, instantly heading towards the other side. How could a low-ranking ninja possibly? Not good. The jonin instantly dispelled the genjutsu, but at the same time, he sensed an aura rapidly approaching. Then, one slash, and blood splattered in the forest. The next second, Danzo appeared. He wasn't covered in blood, but the blade was stained red. Teacher! Akabane breathed a sigh of relief. Even jonin have shown up. These guys have an incredibly long reach. Danzo's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Danzo has no right to interfere in the daimyo's plans to deal with the land of whirlpools, but the fact that these people dared to attack a caravan that was clearly bearing the mark of the Senju clan means that this is not just a matter between the two countries, but also involves the reputation of Konoha. The merchants on the ground had fainted, but fortunately, their lives were not in danger. Teacher, who are they? Akabane pressed his temples as he used genjutsu on the jonin, the mental strain of which exceeded his expectations. Kigakure, a rogue ninja. Danzo remained silent for a moment, then shook his hand to wipe the blood off the sword before sheathing it. Akabane was slightly taken aback, but then he understood. The land of whirlpools is surrounded by the sea on 3 sides, and faces the land of water across the sea. As expected, no evidence will be left behind. Akabane smiled bitterly. People from these ninja villages are sure to do things perfectly and leave no evidence, especially since Kirigakure is the most skilled in this area and would never leave any grounds for criticism. Let's go back first, we might run into the same people over there. Danzo's expression turned serious. A jonin and several chunin were killed here, and it's unlikely that anyone else will come.
These people are just too frightened and will wake up soon.
Compared to that, he was more worried about the situation on the other side. Even with shadow clones on the other side, Jonin had already appeared here, so what about the other side? He was genuinely worried. Those were two of Konoha's new generation of geniuses, the next generation of Konoha. Chapter 38 on how to kill a Jonin. When they returned, they found that Zishio and Shuomo had also come back. Both were seriously injured, especially Zishio, who was practically carried back by Danzo's shadow clone. The shadow clone saw the real body, bowed slightly, and then disappeared. Instantly, Danzo understood what had happened on the other side. Although they were all rogue ninjas from Kirigakure, their methods differed from those of Kirigakure, indicating that some were taking advantage of the situation.
You've encountered the enemy too?
Seeing their state, Akabane understood the situation. If even his side had encountered several waves of enemies, the other side would naturally be facing the same.
4 or 5 Chunin. Shuomo was out of breath.
Akabane was not surprised, his side was led by a Jonin himself. If it weren't for Danzo's help, he might not have even been able to escape.
This is what a Jonin is like.
In comparison, they were only encountering Chunin, which was a stroke of good luck amidst misfortune.
Treat the injury first. Danzo threw down 2 bottles of medicine.
Upon closer inspection, Shiyu realized that these medicines were perfectly suited to Zijiao's injuries. As for Shuomo, he only suffered superficial injuries and will be fine after a few days of rest.
We're going back now. Danzo's expression was grave. A Jonin-level rogue ninja from Kirigakure has appeared in the land of whirlpools. We must report this.
He was merely the head of the Secret Service, and it was absolutely impossible for him to act unilaterally on such a major matter.
So, we can go back now,
Akabane said with delight. Following someone like Danzo, you'll never feel safe no matter what you do. Going home is the happiest thing for you. I will now set off to find the caravan leader, leaving one shadow clone to accompany you at a slower pace.
Danzo said.
Extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. If it were just the land of fire ordering the clearing of mountain bandits and robbers from the border, he could ignore it or even obey the order. But now it's a matter between Yuzushio village and Konoha village, and the daimyo can't interfere with their actions.
If they want to intervene, Konoha must do so as quickly as possible. They cannot afford to delay for even a moment.
As soon as he finished speaking, he created a shadow clone, while his original self quickly disappeared.
Let's rest for a while before setting off for Konoha.
Akabane sat down on the rock and added, this time it's not that I'm being lazy, but that you all need to recover.
Ah. Tsukumo Hatake nodded and sat down. Zijiao's injuries are too severe.
If she engages in strenuous exercise at this time, it will inevitably leave hidden injuries that will be detrimental to her future development.
Danzo's clone did not appear, but Akabane could sense that he was indeed guarding the area. Akabane, you guys encountered ninjas too? Tsukumo remained silent for a while, then asked. Ah. Akabane nodded.
He could guess what Tsukumo wanted to ask, and he hesitated whether to explain.
Then why did the teacher intervene?
Shuomo became increasingly curious. They fought so fiercely, yet Akabane returned without any injuries, which he found very strange. We encountered several Chunin, whom I killed with Genjutsu, but then a Jonin appeared, and I almost died. Akabane remained silent, then spoke in a mix of truth and falsehood.
The Jonin did indeed make a move, but he also escaped using a substitution jutsu.
Given so many explosive tags, Akabane is unlikely to be killed, but without Danzo's major breakthrough, he would have been severely injured by the intense blast wave.
That outcome wouldn't make her any more carefree than Zishio. However, this result was enough to shock Shuomo and Zishao. Several Chunin were killed by Genjutsu. This is enough to show that Danzo did not make a move before the Jonin appeared.
Hatake Tsukumo gripped the hilt of his sword, a hint of resentment in his eyes. Although this was due to the bloodline limit of his 5 senses, the Kurama clan, while powerful in controlling their 5 senses, also had weaknesses in physical techniques. Therefore, this result was a huge disappointment for both of them. Are Jonin strong?
Sakumo clenched his fist, then released it. The weaker you are, the more you need to understand where your enemy's strength lies. He was not jealous of Akabane, but he deeply hated that he was too weak. The Jonin from Kirigakure has a strong killing intent. Even though I was hundreds of meters away from him, just one look from him sent chills down my spine. Akabane was unusually serious. To put it bluntly, with our current strength, the chance of us defeating a Jonin is almost only 10%. Is Kazunari your bloodline limit? Zixiao asked. The bloodline limit of the Kurama clan can transform illusion into reality, a fact known to many disciples of the clan. In their view, this 1% chance could only be Akabane. However, Akabane shook his head. The Jonin is too strong. He can kill me in just a few seconds, so I only have one chance. But I think Genjutsu can't kill a Jonin. To kill him, we need 3 people working together seamlessly. The manipulation of the 5 senses is not an invincible technique. Otherwise, if the Kurama clan could secretly trap people in Genjutsu and kill them silently, what would be the point of the ninja war? They could just take down the Kage of each village. Based on his experience in this battle, Akabane guessed that his current limit was that he could only cause some damage to Jonin, and killing them was wishful thinking. This doesn't even take into account the backlash from the Jonin's mental strength. My swordsmanship? Sakumo possessed high combat intelligence. He quickly visualized the scene in his mind and ultimately drew a conclusion. The only chance is for multiple forces to hold each other back, giving Shoamao a chance to strike decisively. Even the strongest Jonin cannot withstand a sword. Yes, so you don't need to underestimate yourselves. Everyone has their own strengths and advantages. Akabane nodded. He didn't shy away from his strength, because that would only make Shoamao and Zixiao feel that he was hiding something. Instead, laying it out openly was more comforting. At least, that's what his poor emotional intelligence thought. Page 32. Indeed, if it weren't for Zixiao's cover, I might already be dead in this battle. Shuamao said with deep emotion. Thank you very much. Zixiao said gratefully. He knew very well that Akabane and Sakumo were stronger than him. Zixiao was never the best from a young age, and he was used to it, so he told himself that as long as he was good at everything and did his job well, that would be enough. But when faced with real comparisons, he still couldn't bear it. Akabane could instantly kill several Chunin, and Sakumo could use his swordsmanship and agile movements to kill Chunin, while he could only restrain and be beaten. The gap was too big, so big that it discouraged Zixiao. I've been used to it since I was a child, but you're right, I have my own uses, and luckily my element is fire. Zixiao chuckled softly, then immediately pulled at her wound, causing another sharp pain. Fire attribute chakra possesses powerful offensive capabilities, which at least makes Zixiao somewhat stronger in attack, preventing her from being completely mediocre. Otherwise, he really needs to consider changing careers or specializing in one thing. It's a pity you don't get along with the Uchiha, otherwise you could learn their best techniques and your strength would improve by a whole new level. Seeing that his mood had improved, Akabane changed the subject. Among Konoha's fire release techniques, the Uchiha clan is undoubtedly the strongest. Even Zixiao's Phoenix Flower technique originated from the Uchiha clan. Chapter 39. No, you don't want to rest. Konoha, we're finally back. On their way back to Konoha from the border, almost no one dared to attack them, so the journey was smooth, and they quickly returned to Konoha territory. Upon seeing the gate, Akabane's eyes welled up with tears. These past few days have been like hell. Now that he's finally back in Konoha, he feels he needs to take a sick leave. In terms of physical condition and sick leave, being a member of the pommel horse family can be a significant advantage, increasing the chances of success. Back to Konoha, everyone disperse. Danzo's shadow clone collapsed and disappeared the moment it finished speaking. The remaining 3 people exchanged glances, as if they were reliving the joy of graduation. Even the most composed Sakumo's face twitched slightly, his expression quite varied. I'm finally back, and I've decided to take a vacation. As Akabane was speaking, he was interrupted by Zixiao halfway through. No, you don't want to rest. You want to update and benefit the vast number of comic book readers.
Zishao remained serious, not giving Chiyu a chance to finish her sentence.
I want to see what happens next. Tsukumo also hurriedly urged for an update.
As the father of his future son, he was particularly eager to know how that bastard Akabane would draw the subsequent content.
Please, I just got back. Anyway, you're just using clones to do the manufacturing anyway, so what's the difference?
Zishao shrugged, then waved goodbye and quickly left.
Remember to draw.
Shuamao spoke gently, but having just experienced bloodshed, he always exuded a chilling aura that sent shivers down people's spines.
Who are you all?
Even shadow clones need to rest.
Akabane sighed helplessly.
No one would believe him if he said that, after all, he was the one with the least human rights among all the shadow clones of Konoha.
He hadn't walked far when he saw Tsunade around a corner.
She had just run over, her expression excited and nervous, but upon seeing Akabane, all those expressions vanished, replaced by calm. Oh, haven't seen you for days.
Did you just come back from outside the village?
Tsunade, your flirting skills are terrible.
Konoha is only so big, it's impossible to keep any mission a secret from any group.
Akabane silently complained in his heart, but considering the other party's good intentions, he didn't say what he really thought. Yeah, I just came back from completing a mission.
I really envy you guys. We've been doing odd jobs for 3 days already. Tsunade sighed, feeling very disappointed.
What these people longed for most was to leave the village and encounter a major mission, but they hadn't even accepted a sea-level mission, let alone left the village.
Don't even mention it, the back and forth travel is exhausting. Why don't you tell Danzo to switch places with me?
Akabane remained expressionless.
He got angry when Danzo was mentioned.
Other teams started from the bottom, so why did they skip directly?
Goodbye, Danzo. Tsunade's indescribable expression clearly showed that she had a very clear understanding of Danzo and had absolutely no feelings of admiration for him. Danzo was not a good person, even during this period.
Akabane didn't dislike Danzo, but after spending a few days with him, he also didn't like him. He looked somewhat depressed as he walked home along the street, with Tsunade following beside him, as if he had no particularly urgent mission. The more this was the case, the more sorrowful Akabane felt in his heart.
They're both genin, but the treatment they receive is vastly different. By the way, if you're free this afternoon, shouldn't you be drawing?
It's been 4 or 5 days, and you still haven't gotten the next part of the story out. Tsunade followed him for a while, then suddenly realized that she hadn't even told him her main purpose for coming to see him.
The romance is also something that urges for more updates. Also, don't forget to send me the original cover design. Seeing Akabane continue forward, Tsunade shouted from behind.
He was devastated. He waved his hand helplessly and then turned to go home. Regardless, updates still need to be made, otherwise if these manga fans come knocking on his door, the Kurama clan might not be able to protect him, not to mention, just one Uzumaki Mito would be enough to give them a hard time.
On the other side, the Hokage building.
My lords, many rogue ninjas have suddenly appeared in our land of whirlpools, damaging all our trade routes, and we are also being hunted down by many ninjas. The caravan leader, who had been brought to Konoha by Danzo, slowly revealed the truth about his current situation in the land of whirlpools. Inside the office were the third Hokage, Danzo, Koharu Utatane, and Hamura Mitokado.
This is the current highest leadership of Konoha. Where did these rogue ninjas come from? Didn't Uzushio village take any action?
Koharu's expression was serious, and she was very puzzled. Uzumaki village is a true ally of Konoha, and its leadership is well aware of just how powerful the Uzumaki clan is. This is a terrifying clan, each member possesses exceptional talent, and it's impossible for them to be unable to handle mere rogue ninjas.
There are too many.
There are far too many rogue ninjas, and it's impossible to tell where they come from.
Moreover, they don't confront the ninjas of Uzumaki village directly, they usually avoid them. Although the Uzumaki clan mobilized their forces, their efficiency was too low.
The caravan leader smiled wryly. If he hadn't contacted the Senju and Uzumaki clans, he would have been completely unaware of so many secrets, which is why Danzo immediately took him alone to Konoha. Unfortunately, this person, as the leader, was targeted and suffered severe injuries, remaining unconscious for half a day, otherwise, he wouldn't have had to wait until now.
So you want us to take action?
The third Hokage exhaled a puff of smoke and spoke his first words. Yes, please help Uzushio village and the land of whirlpools, Lord Hokage.
The caravan leader immediately knelt down and begged desperately. Is this your idea, or the idea of the Uzumaki clan or Uzumaki village? Danzo said coldly. This is of course the will of the Uzumaki clan.
The caravan leader was sweating profusely, his eyes darting between the four men.
He is lying.
Danzo remained indifferent and unmoved. The third Hokage took a few puffs of his cigarette without speaking. At this moment, Mitokado Hamura had no choice but to speak. Mr. Kazama, we don't want to hear lies.
Please answer honestly. My lords, this is really okay? Danzo opened his eyes, his killing intent surging forth. Danzo, don't treat Konoha's guests like this.
The third Hokage immediately stopped him, then smiled gently and said, Mr. Kazama, I don't think Uzushio village asked Konoha to take action, right?
Otherwise, it wouldn't have been you who came, but the Uzumaki clan. Kazama Satoshi turned pale with fright, his legs trembled, and he almost knelt down with a thud. Since this is not the will of Utsushima village, we cannot intervene.
We apologize. Xiaochun shook her head, looking regretful. But Mr. Kazama can stay in Konoha for a while and take a look around, but there's nothing we can do about this matter for the time being. The third Hokage said apologetically.
Kazama Sakai's face was grim. He nodded with difficulty and left the office.
The remaining four people sat inside in silence.
If it weren't for an official request, we could only offer support through a mission assignment, but this. Maitaman Hamura said half a sentence, then hesitated and didn't continue.
The border chase alone has already produced Jonin-level figures, so sending a rookie squad would be a joke, but being too weak is equally useless.
Let's wait and see. If Kazama Sakai goes to the Senju clan, there might be a turning point.
The third Hokage rose, sighed softly, and left.
Chapter 40. Take the comic and go home.
I'll try to draw up to Chapter 10 today, and then send it to Yamano Izumi Hiroshi. Back home, Akabane created a shadow clone, set a small goal for it, then ignored its resentful and angry gaze and lay down to rest. This was the first time he had actually been in contact with a bed in several days. He was so exhausted that he didn't fall asleep until very late that night in the mountain village. There are too many words to say, I simply can't draw that many on my own. The shadow clone complained. Don't worry, I'll create a second one later. I'm too tired right now, and I might faint as soon as I create the second clone.
Then you'll all disappear just like before. Akabane looked exhausted, but as a clone, how could he not know the actual situation?
Actually, I haven't done much work these past few days, I've just been running around a lot.
Ultimately, it's just laziness.
The clone silently complained to himself, too lazy to say anything more about Akabane.
You can't fight City Hall.
Whether it's one or two people, he'll still be doing the same amount of work.
The only thing is that the progress of the comic will be a little slower. Page 33.
However, Akabane did not deceive him. After resting for a while, he indeed separated into two.
Should we go and pay a visit to Granny Nito?
Forget it, I'm too tired after running around for several days. Anyway, the affairs of the land of whirlpools don't have much to do with me, so I'll just ignore it. On the way back, Akabane was still thinking about talking to Mito Uzumaki about Kazama Sato's problem, but then, the moment his back touched the bed, he immediately abandoned the idea of visiting.
Going out is too tiring.
At this moment, Kazama Sato, a member of the Senju clan, arrived at this place under certain accidents and hints and presented his caravan's token.
Please help me present this token, sir. Kazama Satoshi requests an audience with the princess.
Kazama Seiko respectfully handed the token to the ninja in front of the mansion, his face full of earnestness.
Are you looking for Lord Mito? Hold on. The Senju clan ninja glanced at him, looked at him with surprise, clearly recognizing Kazama Sasuke's identity, and then quickly disappeared with the token. he reappeared a few seconds later. Lord Mito is resting and will see you in a few minutes, he said calmly. Yes. Kazama Seiko was respectful and dared not act rashly.
Mito Uzumaki, Princess of the Land of Whirlpools, is also the strongest member of the Uzumaki clan in existence.
However, as the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, she is destined to live only in Konoha. Once she steps out of Konoha, not only will the village's leaders be uneasy, but the Kage of other ninja villages will probably suffer from insomnia. Because she represents the most terrifying fighting force in the ninja world right now. Inside the courtyard, Mito Uzumaki and Tsunade sat in silence. That brat came back from outside and didn't say he wanted to visit me? Mito Uzumaki snorted coldly. He went straight home. It's probably not going to be easy for him to come out on his own. Tsunade pondered for a while but couldn't come up with a way to get Akabane to come and visit her. It's not just not easy, it's probably impossible. Mito Uzumaki sneered, then added with a hint of suspicion, but why did that kid come so early last time? Grandma, I don't know. Tsunade shook her head. She was just as shocked that day that Akabane would get up so early and even leave the house without having any classes. Never mind him, when the second volume of the comic comes out, my dear granddaughter, remember to buy me a copy. Mito Uzumaki smiled gently and said, That's no problem, but what about that guy outside the door, should we just ignore him? She had seen the token as soon as it was handed over. It was clearly a token that only caravans responsible for trade between the Thousand Hands and the Uzumaki clans possessed. Let him think about it calmly, which will save me time. Mito leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes to rest. She was well aware of the quagmire of the Whirlpool clan, but solving this problem was far too difficult. She was thinking about it when suddenly she remembered that comic book. My dear granddaughter, go and get that comic book. Tsunade was stunned. It had already been looked over 2 or 3 times, so why bring it out again? However, since Mito Uzumaki had given the order, she readily agreed and ran into the house to retrieve the first volume of the manga. Taking the comic book, Mito Uzumaki turned to the first page. The Nine-Tailed Fox, Naruto Uzumaki. The Uzumaki clan has fallen so low that even their descendants don't know how to use sealing techniques. Mito opened the first page with a light laugh, but her expression grew increasingly serious. If this is just a guess. Tsunade, let Kazama Sasaka in. She closed the book, sat up straight, and was lost in thought. If the guess is correct, then not only the Uzumaki clan, but the entire land of whirlpools will suffer a terrible blow. Not long after, Tsunade led Kazama Satoshi to the courtyard. Upon seeing Mito Uzumaki, Kazama-san was initially utterly astonished, then his face filled with surprise. A few seconds later, realizing his lapse in composure, he knelt down and begged for mercy. Princess, spare me. I was merely struck by your youthful appearance and lost my composure. It doesn't matter, I'm no longer a princess. Mito Uzumaki said calmly, get up first, sit down, and let's talk. Yes, thank you, princess. Kazama Sato noticed that Mito Uzumaki's appearance had not aged at all, and his respect for her grew even stronger, so he dared not be disrespectful in the slightest. Are you a merchant caravan traveling between the land of whirlpools and Konoha? Mito Uzumaki held the token, played with it for a while, and then asked. Yes, our lineage is responsible for maintaining the trade route between Yuzushio village and Konoha. Kazama said. You want to see me, not just because of trade, right? Mito Uzumaki put down the sign. If it were just for business, the Senju clan's token would be enough for them to stay in Konoha village temporarily, and there would be no need to look for this old woman who had long since retired from the public eye. To be honest, Your Highness, the reason I am seeking an audience with you is to ask you to lend a helping hand to Yuzushio village and the kingdom of Yuzushio. As Kazama Sakai spoke, he knelt down again with a thud, kowtowing as he spoke. Oh. Mito Uzumaki lay down, her eyes slightly narrowed. The land of whirlpools is now full of rogue ninjas from other countries. Some were deliberately sent by enemy countries, while others came here to seek refuge because they knew the land of whirlpools was in chaos. Although the ninja masters of Yuzushio village were all dispatched, they were simply unable to wipe them out completely.
For example, this time there were 3 Chunin protecting us, but they were all killed.
Kazama Satoshi cried out that being chased by ninjas was terrifying for an ordinary person like him. He explained everything that had happened to Mito Uzumaki.
I remember that in the past, the protection was always led by Jonin.
That's what Mito Uzumaki said.
Yes, but the Jonin-sama have all gone out to suppress the rogue ninja.
Kazama explained.
To be honest, he didn't think that a Jonin leading the team could protect them, since the other side had also sent a Jonin and 4 or 5 Chunin. No matter how you look at it, this was a planned act of traitorous ninja.
Mito Uzumaki holds a comic book, opening and closing it repeatedly.
After a long while, she sat up straight and said, "The Senju clan has faded out of Konoha's management, and I have no way to interfere with Konoha's decisions." Upon hearing this, Kazama Sakai was utterly devastated and sat on the ground, ashen-faced.
However, you can take this comic to the patriarch of the Uzumaki clan, and he might understand what I mean.
Here's another piece of advice: you'd better hire 1 or 2 ninja squads to protect you, otherwise I don't think you'll be able to return to the land of whirlpools alive.
Mito Uzumaki stated it very bluntly. Once Kazama arrives in Konoha, this information will soon be known to those with ulterior motives.
He intends to leave with the caravan, at which point their assassins will immediately be dispatched.
The premise is that the guess is correct.
He paused for a moment, then turned to the first page of the book. Kazama initially thought this was some kind of strategy book, but upon opening it, he discovered it was just a booklet compiled in the form of illustrations. Upon closer inspection, all the illustrations seemed to tell a story when put together.
But, what does this mean?
His limited understanding made it impossible for him to comprehend what this meant, so he could only keep it to himself for now and show it to the wise Vortex clan leader when he returned.
If there are no other problems, you can leave now. The Senju clan can no longer be of any help. Mito Uzumaki said with utter helplessness.
The Senju clan is not without options, but the ones who want to destroy the Uzumaki clan are not just one village or one country, but all the countries and ninja villages that possess tailed beasts.
How can a clan or a village stand against the world? Yes, thank you, princess. Kazama Saga sighed and slowly retreated. Hashirama, if you want to live, there might still be a way, but... Mito Uzumaki sighed sadly. If Hashirama Senju were alive, which ninja village in the world would dare to act recklessly?
But he was dead after all.
Chapter 41 Business Expansion, The Land of Whirlpools. Why do we have to go on another mission? I just got back and rested for a day. Akaba, it's been 3 days.
Zishao felt somewhat ashamed. The Lazybone's anger was simply too much to bear. Tsukumo stood to the side, sword in hand, his fighting spirit burning fiercely.
Akabane took a deep breath, telling himself not to get angry, and then asked, "Any good news?" "Yes. Kazama Sakai bought a whole truckload of comic books this time." Zishao honestly told the good news. Kazama Sakai? He was the one who orchestrated this mission, wasn't he?
I should have known better than to rescue that guy.
Akabane couldn't help but cough up blood.
He drew comics to improve his life, not for various business trips.
Oh, there's some good news.
At this moment, Tsukumo interjected, "This time we're going on a mission with Class 6.
Okay?" Akabane looked at Tsukumo with a puzzled expression. Seeing his expression, Tsukumo was bewildered and asked, "Could it be that you and Tsunade?" "What the hell? Just because I'm on a mission with Tsunade doesn't mean I should be happy.
If I went out every day, I could see her every day."
Akabane's rebuttal left the 2 kids speechless. Thinking about it carefully, it seems to make sense. Zishao was speechless for a moment, not knowing what to say. "Is it good news for you that I can't participate in this mission?" Just then, a voice entered my ears. "Danzo?" Page 34.
Akabane was slightly startled. The 3 of them turned their heads at the same time and saw Danzo's figure materialize.
"Isn't the teacher going to the land of whirlpools?" Zishao asked in surprise.
"Ha, with the Hokage and the head of the Umbu going to the land of whirlpools together, the land of water and the hidden mist village may not be able to sleep peacefully."
Danzo sneered and then vanished.
Only one of the Hokage or Danzo would go, but Akabane didn't expect that the Hokage would personally go in the end, while the head of the Umbu stayed in Konoha.
So, this time the Hokage is leading the team? Even Tsukumo himself was surprised.
What an honor it is for the Hokage to personally lead the team to the land of whirlpools.
But why should I go then? Akabane felt something was wrong. If Hiruzen Sarutobi was leading the team, then Class 6 could go. Why did their group also have to set off?
Don't make wild guesses, you'll know everything once you see the Hokage.
Zixiao, pulling the reluctant Shiyu, led him from the Kurama clan to the gates of Konoha.
Within a week, Akabane came to this gate on his own initiative for the second time. Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Jiraiya were already waiting there, while Hiruzen Sarutobi arrived with Kazama Sakai's caravan just as Akabane and the others arrived. The rest of the caravan had also arrived in Konoha yesterday.
You must be Lord Kurama Akabane? Thank you for saving my life the day before yesterday. I am Kazama Sae. Kazama glanced around and immediately saw the reluctant-looking boy.
The third Hokage told him that the one who was most unwilling to come was definitely Akabane.
Old man, I kindly saved you, and now you want to take me on a business trip? Akabane said irritably.
Although it's impossible to understand the meaning of business trip, it's easy to grasp Akabane's meaning through a combination of literal interpretation and guesswork. Kazama Saku scratched his head awkwardly, unsure of how to respond.
Akaba, this is my order.
Hiruzen Sarutobi said casually, puffing on his cigarette.
Lord Hokage, I just got back.
This time, you will travel with the caravan to the land of whirlpools in the name of a manga author, with Tsukumo and Shursho accompanying you for protection. Before Akabane could finish complaining, Hiruzen Sarutobi interrupted him with a command.
Since it concerned Wachao village, he didn't want to waste his breath. Okay, but I'm weak and can't take the continuous travel anymore. I need to take a car.
Akabane added, an author should have an author's style.
Can. Hiruzen Sarutobi conceded, but did not require Akabane to follow his footsteps.
When this guy gets lazy, he can be really stubborn. But at least he's willing to go now, and if we refuse, Akabane will probably turn around and go back. Fortunately, Kazama Sasuke obtained some spare vehicles from several families in Konoha, otherwise, it probably wouldn't have been enough. After agreeing on the terms, the caravan quickly set off for the land of whirlpools. Akabane created a shadow clone to continue drawing, while he sat calmly in his seat, watching his companions walk by.
Run faster, this is training, this is a form of self-cultivation. Why do I have to train all the time while Akabane can ride in a car? I'm going to be a manga author too, this isn't fair.
Jiraiya's roar echoed through the forest.
What's Akabane's strength? What's yours? If you don't train soon, do you want to get killed in the land of whirlpools?
Hiruzen Sarutobi said irritably.
Ah. Teacher, please make the clone stop. I was wrong, I'll train.
Before Jiraiya could even finish complaining, his clone caught up with him and gave him a good beating. Although it was just an earth clone and didn't have much strength, it was more than enough to deal with Jiraiya using only physical skills. Speaking of which, I wonder just how far Jiraiya has gone in his research on art. Hearing Jiraiya's wailing, Akabane couldn't help but think of Jiraiya's works. Of course. He wasn't interested in hand-drip coffee for the time being. His 9-year-old body desperately needed nutrition, and he couldn't waste it on something like that. Besides, Jiraiya's drawing skills really didn't interest him. The caravan wasn't moving fast, but Akabane, sitting in the carriage, could draw while watching the others being tortured, so he was living a fairly comfortable life. Moreover, by the time they reached the border, Akabane had already completed the content of Chapter 11.
In Episode 11, there is a very powerful new exchange item, the Half-Immortal Physique.
Half-Immortal Physique, the power inherited from the bloodline of the Vortex clan, possessing multiple abilities, all of which require 4,000 points to redeem.
Yes, 4,000 points.
This is the most common exchange item that Akabane has ever seen, but considering how precious this thing is, it's not surprising.
To Akabane's surprise, this thing could be paid for in installments.
The Uzumaki clan possesses 4 physical abilities: powerful vitality, chakra, sensory perception, and healing.
Naruto forcibly removed the poisoned blood with a kunai after being poisoned, and his hand recovered within seconds, demonstrating his powerful vitality.
If possible, Akabane would definitely prioritize exchanging for the vitality item, as it is a crucial guarantee for survival.
However,
even if he could split and exchange them, Akabane still didn't have that many points on hand, so he could only wait for the second volume to be released. The second volume of Naruto has been sent to the arsenal for printing, and the subsequent distribution will be handled entirely by the Kurama clan. Once the second volume is officially released, combined with the 200+ points I've recently accumulated in the business in Whirlpool Village, I might have enough points to redeem one. But here's the problem: episode 12 will feature the Sharingan, hidden mist technique, water clone technique, and silent assassination technique, and no matter how you calculate it, you won't have enough points. Hopefully the ninjas of Yuzushio Village will step up their game and contribute some points, otherwise we'll have to work overtime to finish the third volume as well. Akabane sighed softly, feeling utterly helpless. Thinking about it this way, going on a business trip to the land of whirlpools doesn't seem like such a bad thing. After all, Kazama Sasuke knows too little about manga, and his marketing skills are definitely not as effective as if he were to handle it himself. I just hope that the third generation won't cause trouble or give him any more tasks. Chapter 42: Silent Assassination Technique. The land of whirlpools is just ahead. We encountered those ninjas nearby earlier. Kazama Sakai revisited the old place, feeling lingering fear. Hiruzen Sarutobi looked thoughtfully at his surroundings and said, "Akabane, did you dispose of the bodies after you killed those ninjas?" "What? Akabane killed several ninjas here?" Jiraiya jumped up in shock, and even Orochimaru looked surprised and turned to look at the car. "No." Akabane lay in the car, too lazy to look out the window. The reason Hiruzen Sarutobi would ask that question is definitely because the corpses have all been cleared away, and sticking his head out to look would be a waste of energy. Just as I was thinking this, the curtain of the carriage was suddenly pulled open. The little girl, looking annoyed, stood in front of the car and yelled, "Get off here." I'm physically weak." Before Akabane could finish speaking, Tsunade's chakra surged. Superhuman strength? Then, he had a bad feeling. "Get out of the car yourself, or should I smash it?" Tsunade raised her fist in threat. Zishao chuckled to herself, clearly having anticipated this outcome. "Akaba, come here, tell me the specifics of that day." Hiruzen Sarutobi said with a smile. Akabane wasn't in a good mood, he'd probably been tricked by the third Hokage again. He got out of the car, leaving his clone to draw on the back. 5 Chunin were killed here by my genjutsu. A Jonin dies in this position. Akabane threw out a shuriken, marking the positions of the two. 5 Chunin. Tsunade clenched her fists, silently comparing herself to others. Could she take down 5 Chunin? Without a doubt, no. Is Akabane already this strong? Graduated in the same year, how can there be such a big difference? Why didn't I feel it? Jiraiya was utterly shocked and stood there dumbfounded for a moment. However, Orochimaru had the deepest understanding of Akabane, so it was not surprising that he was instantly killed on his first attempt. However, the ability to unleash genjutsu on 5 Chunin in an instant demonstrates terrifying mental strength. The ninja tools and explosive tags are the kind that rogue ninjas can buy, and their appearance is also disguised. As for ninjutsu, since Danzo-sensei killed them with one sword, there was nothing to demonstrate. Akabane followed behind and said, "There are too few clues, and it's basically impossible to tell who they are, but the way the bodies were disposed of is probably the method used by the hidden mist hunting force." When Hiruzen Sarutobi arrived at this location, even though 2 days had passed and someone had cleaned up the scene, some clues could still be seen since it hadn't rained. So those were ninjas from Kirigakure. Akabane thought to himself. The hidden mist pursuit force? Jiraiya's eyes lit up with excitement, and he quickly asked, "What kind of unit is this from Kirigakure?" "They specialize in hunting down rogue ninja. Everyone, use your transformation techniques to disguise yourselves." "Mr. Kazama, you can come over now." Hiruzen Sarutobi stood up and then gestured for Kazama Sakai's caravan to follow. Everyone knows how to transform, but the skill level varies. For example, Jiraiya, even when using the transformation technique, can still be accurately identified from a group of people. His goofy nature cannot be hidden. Akabane became a worker, lazily sitting on the edge of a flatbed cart. If they weren't disguising themselves, not to mention the 6 genin, Hiruzen Sarutobi alone would be enough to deter all the ninjas of the Land of Whirlpools from making a move. After all, this is the 3rd Hokage. The group followed the caravan into the territory of the Land of Whirlpools. It wasn't long before Akabane truly understood how chaotic the Land of Whirlpools was. The fields were barren and the houses were empty, clearly indicating that no one had lived there for a long time. After walking for a long time, we still hadn't seen a single living person. Page 35. That's horrible. The Land of Whirlpools, this is the first time I've ever been here in my entire life. Tsunade was initially excited, but after walking such a long distance, she became disappointed and sad. This is Grandma's homeland, but... Akabane sighed inwardly, but there was nothing he could do. Tailed beasts are the treasures of every ninja village, comparable to nuclear bombs, but the Uzumaki clan is the nemesis of tailed beasts, and this alone is enough to make them the enemy of the world. He was just being lenient, he couldn't and didn't bother to care. Further ahead is a crossroads of the trade routes of the Land of Whirlpools, where rogue ninjas usually appear. Kazama Satoshi was very nervous, sweat was pouring down his forehead. Akabane picked up a pen and began to sketch the background in advance. The caravan moved slowly forward, and some ordinary guards began to approach the carts loaded with comic books, as if these were very important goods. At this point, the difference between those who have killed others and those who have not becomes apparent. Although Zishou and Shirama were nervous, they looked much like the ordinary guards around them. However, Tsunade and the other two were clearly ninjas, and their guarded postures were different. As for Akabane, he sat on the side of the flatbed cart, fiddling with his hands haphazardly. Whoosh! Suddenly, the sound of rustling leaves came from the forest. Careful! Orochimaru shouted, and immediately saw several shuriken fly out of the forest. Jiraiya immediately stood up and used kunai to knock the shuriken down, while Tsunade rushed straight into the forest. Careful! Tsukumo's expression changed, and his speed suddenly increased. He rushed in front of Tsunade first and threw a kunai at the ground a few steps away. Boom! Explosive tag? Tsunade was so focused on the enemy that she forgot about the possible traps. When she saw Tsukumo breaking through the traps, she belatedly realized her fear. So it's just a bunch of kids. Are they a ninja squad that just graduated from Konoha? I don't know who your jonin are, but they still have to die. Hidden mist technique. Chakra spread out, and a thick fog enveloped the area, making it impossible to see one's hand in front of one's face within 100 paces. Kirigakure no Jutsu. Such a vast area must belong to a jonin. Akabane's heart tightened. The opponent never showed himself, and his vision was blocked, so he was unable to cast illusions by drawing. In this environment, his illusions were almost useless. Miscalculation. They couldn't see or hear anything, everyone held their breath, not daring to be careless. Akabane is secretly vigilant. Call. Suddenly, a slight whistling sound came from beside my ear. In an instant, his hands formed a hand seal. Earth release, heart beheading technique. The burrowing and pulling were executed in one smooth motion. Before the attacking Chunin from the hidden mist village could react, he was dragged to the ground and then pierced through the throat with a kunai. To be able to use earth release to this extent, you must be a jonin from Konoha, right? A cold voice came from behind. Silent killing technique. Akabane was drenched in cold sweat, as if he could sense the approach of a blade, and his hands formed hand seals with unprecedented speed. Substitution. He subtly changed his position, but he knew that his opponent could definitely find him in the hidden mist technique. The hidden mist ninja reigns supreme. Third generation, why aren't you making a move yet? Akabane was cursing under his breath. The jonin were already at the edge, if he didn't act soon, he'd be dead. At that moment, he suddenly felt mentally disoriented. The next second, a memory flooded his mind, a memory from the shadow clone of the painting, who had completed the 12th chapter. Great! Akabane was overjoyed and quickly opened the list to exchange for the silent assassination technique. In an instant, the surrounding sounds and breaths became crystal clear. Behind him was a Kirigakure Jonin wielding a sword. At the same time, one could sense that Orochimaru and his group were fighting with Chunin not far away. Jiraiya, who was in the worst condition, was panting heavily and was obviously injured. However, he noticed something strange. Although the hidden mist Jonin was holding a sword, he didn't seem to be making any unusual moves. Could it be that my silent assassination technique isn't sophisticated enough? Products produced by the system must be of high quality. Akabane quickly dismissed the idea, so the only explanation was that this Jonin had no intention of taking action. Who knows, the third Hokage might have already taken care of the Jonin, damn it. He quickly realized what was happening, muttered a curse in his mind, and then used Earth Release to rapidly gather at Orochimaru's location. When he got close to a Chunin who was locked in combat, he used the same method to pull the opponent down and kill him with a single blow using a kunai. However, after the reunion was completed, Akabane did not make any further moves. Instead, like the hidden mist Jonin, he crouched in a position that was not easily noticed and quietly observed. Since the outcome is already decided, it's better to let others practice, which will save us some trouble and effort. Kid, aren't you afraid of dying? Just as he was slacking off, the Jonin suddenly appeared behind him, brandishing his blade. Akabane sighed helplessly, ducked to avoid the extremely slow blade, and said, "Lord Hokage, please stop joking." "Heh, you're quite clever, kid. You guessed it when that knife missed you, didn't you?" Sarutobi Hiruzen said in a low voice. "You've already mastered the art of silent killing, yet you still reminded me before you committed the murder?" Akabane calmly made a sarcastic remark. Of course. He was only speaking after the fact. If he hadn't exchanged the technique for the silent killing technique and thus discovered the Jonin's strange behavior, Akabane might still be hiding underground right now. Chapter 43: The Hidden Mist Pursuit Team. It's not surprising that Hiruzen Sarutobi was involved. Based on his observations of Akabane, he found the man to be intelligent, lazy, and at the same time somewhat afraid of death. That's a nice way of putting it. To put it bluntly, it's being afraid of death. Therefore, he would only be so calm and collected watching the show if he was certain there was no threat. "Hey, call me teacher outside. I'm Danzo, so I'm practically your master." Hiruzen Sarutobi decided to sit down and chat. "Do you know why I did this?" Akabane was quite happy to chat. He sat down and said in a low voice, "The possibility of encountering Kirigakure ninjas later is not low. Let them familiarize themselves with Kirigakure tactics in advance." "Yes, but these people aren't shadow clones, they're all real." "You subdued him?" Akabane was finally somewhat surprised. He thought that the Jonin was played by Hiruzen Sarutobi from beginning to end, but he didn't expect that the person who spoke earlier was the real one. "I've tied him up." Hiruzen Sarutobi finally shocked Akabane, and Akabane felt a little smug. In fact, Akabane was truly shocked. As a Jonin, being subdued by others in an instant is something probably only the Hokage could do. Too strong. Alright, we've basically taken care of all the opponents, there's no need to put on an act anymore. Hiruzen Sarutobi stood up, formed hand seals to dispel the thick fog, and everyone could finally see their surroundings clearly. A mess. So many Chunin, and not a single one was killed? Zishao found it strange, and then she saw Akabane and Hiruzen Sarutobi standing together. Was it an act? No, besides the Chunin they killed, 2 more Chunin were dragged directly into the ground, with only their heads remaining above ground. This is clearly a work by Akabane. Orochimaru's feelings became increasingly complicated, and he soon realized what was going on. The third Hokage swiftly dealt with the Jonin, then disguised himself as an enemy to test their abilities. Undoubtedly, this test wasn't aimed at them. Because the 5 of them were already struggling to deal with just a few Chunin, unlike Akabane who could move freely in and out of the mist and quickly take down 2 Chunin. Not only that, he secretly observed that half of the ninjas they killed had fatal wounds from swords. Of course. Compared to Jiraiya and Tsunade, his results are quite good.
Let's go, let's interrogate this Jonin. Hiruzen Sarutobi walked into the forest, and everyone except the caravan guards followed him. He's that Jonin? He was so arrogant, but he fainted as soon as he made a move. He must have been overworking himself and his body is exhausted. Jiraiya. Hiruzen Sarutobi coughed and quickly stopped him. Jiraiya didn't understand why his teacher was coughing, but he could tell from the tone of her reprimand that he should shut up, so he had no choice but to keep quiet to avoid getting punched by Tsunade again. Akabane squatted down and examined it closely. The style of clothing worn by the Hidden Mist village and the sword in the third Hokage's hand clearly indicate that he was the original owner. However, that sword was just an ordinary sword, not even a chakra weapon, and naturally it was not one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. He is a rogue ninja. Tsunade noticed the scratch on her headband and fell into deep thought. It seems that even if I live, Kirigakure will not admit it. That's for sure, and Orochimaru looked up and around. The Hidden Mist Village's pursuit force must be arriving soon. Call out. With a bang, a bitter arrow flew out of the forest. Akabane opened his eyes and saw a figure appear among the leaves in the forest. Page 36. The Hidden Mist Pursuit Team. Gentlemen, could you hand him over to me? I've been hunting him down for days. He saluted very politely. Hiruzen Sarutobi changed his appearance, yet he did not inspire fear or trepidation. Otherwise, the Hidden Mist Village's Umbu would have already made their move and killed all his personalities. How many of your rogue ninja are there in the land of whirlpools? Akabane asked. This is our secret, I can't tell you. The Hidden Mist Umbu said calmly. Then you should stay too, we can deal with it together. Akabane, having no other strokes, added a single line to the canvas, then his figure swayed, the branch beneath his feet snapped, and he fell directly from the tree. Ah, my legs. Normally, with his ANBU skills, he shouldn't have broken his leg, but he fell without resistance as if he were asleep in the air, which directly resulted in his leg breaking. Akaba. Hiruzen Sarutobi hadn't expected Akabane to make a move, and it was too late to stop him now. But at the same time, he was very surprised. As an ANBU member, this Kirigakure ninja was incredibly strong, but Akabane used his 5 senses to manipulate the opponent, rendering him unable to resist. He then materialized the illusory branch and severed it. And the broken leg was naturally not just due to the falling branch. Falling was one thing, but the real reason was that he broke his leg in the environment. In terms of mastery and application of bloodline limits, Akabane is already more terrifying than many veterans of the Kurama clan who have fought on the battlefield. The others can't see much, but they are equally aware of how difficult it is to catch the Umbu. You guys. The Hidden Mist operative awoke, his face filled with disbelief. He revealed his identity, and the other party still attacked him, which was tantamount to declaring war on Kirigakure. Hiruzen Sarutobi said calmly, "What plans does Kirigakure have here? I came here only to hunt down rogue ninjas. If you kill me, you are protecting rogue ninjas," he said through gritted teeth. How would others know that it wasn't a rogue ninja who killed you? The only explanation for your statement is that the rogue ninja was sent by you, so they wouldn't turn around and kill you. Akabane stood up, stretched, and chuckled coldly. Water escape. Just as the Hidden Mist Umbu was about to use water release, they were instantly killed with a single strike. Hiruzen Sarutobi sheathed his sword, his expression indifferent. As members of the Umbu, they are unlikely to reveal any more information. What about the other one? Tsunade asked. Take it back to the village and let the people in the mountains see it. As Hiruzen Sarutobi spoke, he created a shadow clone, splitting it in 2 and then using a sealing technique to preserve the corpse of the ANBU member. Only then did he say to Shirsho and Tsukumo, "You two go back to the village with my clone and hand him over to your teacher along with the ANBU members from Kirigakure." Yes. Tsukumo carried the sealing scroll, Zishao carried the corpse on her back, and together with the shadow clone, they returned to Konoha village. Tsunade watched them leave, then said in surprise, "It's strange that you didn't say you wanted to go back this time." Impossible things, too lazy to talk about them. Akabane stood up.
The land of whirlpools is dangerous, but it is also an opportunity for him. The more he saw, the less suspicious his subsequent drawings would be. Besides, he wanted to confirm a hypothesis. Awakening my 5 senses only cost me 30 points. To obtain the Vortex Clan physique, 4,000 points are required. For a regular Sharingan, 300 to 1,000 points are required. While its 5 senses control isn't as good as the Manjikyu Sharingan, it's definitely no worse than the regular Sharingan. And with a price of only 30 points, it might mean that points can be saved under certain conditions. The eyes of the Uchiha clan are hard to find, but the blood of the Uzumaki clan is not difficult to find now.
Mr. Kazama, let's continue. Hiruzen Sarutobi stood up.
Everything he had seen after entering the land of whirlpools made him even more determined to protect Whirlpool Village, or at least, preserve the bloodline of the Whirlpool clan. However, none of the ninja villages have made any overt moves yet, and Konoha cannot directly help Uzushio village either, otherwise it will lead to another ninja world war.
Chapter 44 The Target of Pursuit. Teacher, could I have that knife?
Jiraiya stared at the sword, his mouth practically watering.
That knife is a big problem. Be careful, you might get it alive, but you might not be able to protect it. Akabane couldn't help but speak up to remind him.
Although it was just an ordinary knife, he noticed that it bore the personal mark of that Jonin.
You idiot, the teacher has a knife, it's definitely not for you. Tsunade roared.
If it weren't for the fact that this guy had just been injured, she would have punched him already. Hiruzen Sarutobi chuckled softly, glanced at them without speaking, but his expression clearly indicated his agreement with Tsunade's statement.
As for its use, Akabane could guess a thing or two.
The Yamanaka clan's secret technique allows them to extract information from the minds of Jonin, enabling Hiruzen Sarutobi to use that information in disguise to find more rogue ninja hiding in the land of whirlpools.
This sword is one of the tools used to disguise his identity.
Furthermore, even if Akabane doesn't make a move and leaves the Kirigakurambu behind, Hiruzen Sarutobi will still make a move.
Lord Kurama. Kazama Sasuke crept over furtively and suddenly called out. Akabane shuddered.
Having transmigrated to this era, no one has yet addressed him as Sir.
He turned around and saw. Oh, it's you. What's up? Akabane really didn't have a good impression of Kazama Sakai.
Both business trips were related to him, and I'm still unhappy about it.
It's good that he has this attitude. Lord Kurama, we're almost into the territory of Uzushio village. I'd like to ask how we should promote it? Kazama said respectfully.
While buying comics, he learned a lot about comic book shops from the residents of Konoha, and then he also learned a lot of details from Tsunade.
He was certain that Akabane was definitely a business genius. Akabane couldn't help but glance at Tsunade. The old man had come to ask this question because Tsunade must have said something. Fine, for the points.
After taking a deep breath, Akabane said calmly, Uzushio village is different from Konoha village.
If we want to promote it, we need to let everyone know what makes the story good. Please enlighten me, sir. Kazama Sato bowed deeply, displaying a very humble attitude. It was Grandma Mito's idea to have you buy the manga, right?
She probably wanted you to show it to the higher-ups in Uzushio village. Just show it to them, and make sure to give a copy to everyone. Then tell the villagers that all the village's leaders have bought the book, and your fame will naturally spread. Akabane sat lazily on the edge of the carriage, shaking his leg as he explained his thoughts.
Kazama Sakai was initially confused, but his expression shifted between surprise and apprehension. What happened again?
Sir, if the higher-ups really take this book seriously, will they allow me to sell it? Kazama Sasuke is quite shrewd in business, but this question is so stupid that Akabane is too lazy to answer it and points to Sarutobi Hiruzen in front of him.
Forehead. Now he realized, the Hokage is here, how could the Uzumaki clan dare to refuse to sell?
Besides, he had already seen the content and couldn't understand anything about it. Kazama Sasuke felt that even he couldn't figure it out, and most of the other guests couldn't make heads or tails of it either. Perhaps only a powerful person like Lord Mito could understand the secrets in the book. Thinking of this, all the pressure instantly disappeared.
Go about your own business and don't stand next to me and attract attention.
Akabane glanced guiltily at Tsunade, secretly relieved that he wasn't on the same team as her, otherwise life would have been too difficult.
My lord, when we return to Wachao village, I beg you to continue to guide me. Hurry up, hurry up. Kazama Satoshi excitedly left and ran ahead.
Tsunade glanced sideways at the back, glaring at Akabane until he jumped off the car. Akabane had no choice but to get out of the car and walk. Fortunately, they were already very close to Yuzushio village, and soon they saw some scattered villages on the outskirts of Yuzushio village. The villages here are so different from what I first saw. On both sides of the field, dozens of people were busy cultivating the land, creating a peaceful and happy scene. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, it would be hard to imagine that the gap between the inside and outside could be so huge, and all of this is because of war. Orochimaru clenched his fists, his eyes turning slightly cold. This is war. Hiruzen Sarutobi patted his head, filled with emotion. It is precisely because war is cruel that we must prevent it from happening. Jiraiya felt a slight pang of sadness. Of his 3 disciples, he always showed the most care and affection for Orochimaru. Teacher, we'll help the land of whirlpools, right? Tsunade was in low spirits. This is her grandmother's hometown, but now it's not only in chaos, but even her grandmother is unable to leave the village and come back to save her hometown for some reason. Just thinking about it makes Tsunade feel a deep sense of empathy. Yes, we will help the land of whirlpools. Hiruzen Sarutobi hesitated for a moment, took a puff of his cigarette, and then continued. War is such a hassle. Akabane remained seated in the car and did not participate in the conversation. The land of whirlpools? Don't be ridiculous. The life and death of a nation cannot be decided by Konoha's attitude. Even if Konoha intervenes, it will only help Yuzushio village, the Uzumaki clan, and perhaps only a portion of the Uzumaki clan. However, he didn't care about any of that. Akabane was afraid that the 3rd Hokage and Danzo were full of bad intentions and would make things difficult for him. Let's draw first, shadow clone technique. The clone appeared, glanced at Akabane speechlessly, and then boarded the carriage on its own. The group continued on their journey and soon saw the gate of Wachao village. Yuzushio village has never appeared in the manga, which makes Akabane a little curious. He glanced at it and it looked strangely familiar. Page 37. Hey, Akabane, the style here is very similar to Grandma's yard. Tsunade exclaimed in surprise. Akabane was stunned. So that courtyard was built in the style of this place, no wonder. However, when Tsunade shouted, Orochimaru looked over with a strange expression and carefully examined Akabane. King Akabane has even met Lady Mito? We met once for some reason. Akabane coughed lightly, without explaining the specific reason. After all, given Mito Uzumaki's seniority, it would be quite a surprise to many if it were revealed that she was a fan of Akabane. Is it a comic book? Yes, Grandma read the comic, which was even written by Akabane. Tsunade proudly showed off. Very nice. Orochimaru was genuinely envious. Mito Uzumaki was a living legend, and he had always wanted to meet her. Unfortunately, since the Senju clan withdrew from the center of power in the past 2 years, he had basically stopped seeing Mito Uzumaki. However, after a brief moment of envy, a sudden flash of inspiration connected everything in his mind. Could it be that the reason the teacher came to the land of whirlpools was because of those few pages in Akabane's manga? This is too. Which aspect of Akabane's work deserves such attention? Orochimaru was bewildered, finding the situation utterly absurd. At the age of 9, he had no idea about Jinchuriki, and his knowledge of the nine-tailed fox was limited to the legendary stories of the first generation. Orochimaru, why are you making such a fuss? The teachers and the others are all gone. Oh. After thinking for a long time, Orochimaru still couldn't figure it out. Jiraiya shouted and immediately ran after him. As he passed by Akabane, he stared at Akabane for a few seconds. At that moment, even Orochimaru himself didn't know what his emotions were. He only felt that, perhaps in the future, the person in front of him would be the target he was chasing.
Chapter 45. I'm still just a child. This is Wachao village? Wow, they all have red hair. Fool, don't make a fuss. All members of the Uzumaki clan have red hair. Jiraiya then took another punch. Akabane's gaze swept across the village, and he noticed that everyone inside was red-haired. Turning his head again, he discovered that Kazama Satoshi's caravan had not entered the village, but instead turned around in front of the village and headed in another direction. Could it be that all the residents of Wachao village? He was shocked. The whole village might be inhabited by the Whirlpool clan, while the outer areas were the residences of people with different surnames. Distinguished guests, I will take you to see the clan chief. Kazama gave a wry smile and stepped forward to lead the way. This is Wachao village. Without Lord Hashirama, Konoha would be the same. Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed. Although not explicitly stated, the meaning is self-evident. When a family becomes too powerful, the rest of the village becomes insignificant. I think it's partly because of Lord Hashirama, and partly because of the Uchiha clan. Akabane added. Ha, you're right. Hiruzen Sarutobi did not refute it, because it was the truth. The Senju, Uchiha, and other Konoha clans formed a stable balance, which evolved into its current state after a period of competition. Heroes are made by the times. Orochimaru said thoughtfully. Equilibrium is sought amidst chaos. Akabane borrowed a phrase from his previous life. That makes sense. Tsunade is actually intelligent, but most of the time she doesn't think about these things. She prefers fists and gambling to thinking. As for Jiraiya, he was a man dedicated to art and had even less interest in these things. That's the clan chief's office over there. After walking for a short while, Kazama pointed left and forward. Akabane looked up and immediately saw a building with the Uzumaki clan symbol painted on it. As I approached, a figure was already waiting. Hiruzen, I didn't expect you to come in person this time. Although Hiruzen Sarutobi used a transformation technique, he couldn't fool his opponent, who saw through his disguise at a glance. Shuhai, it's been many years. I heard that Mr. Kazama has come to Konoha, so I came to see him. Hiruzen Sarutobi dispelled his transformation jutsu and went up to Uzumaki Jukai to inquire about his well-being. Is he the clan chief? Akabane observed him discreetly. He was about the same age as the third Hokage, and possessed the aura of someone in a high position. One couldn't judge his strength from his appearance alone, but he estimated it wouldn't be far off. It's been years since I've been to Wachao village. Let me show you around. Whirlpool Tree C is very enthusiastic, but it gives the impression that this enthusiasm is mixed with other elements. Our main task this time is to escort Mr. Kazama back, so let's talk about business first. Hiruzen Sarutobi shook his head. Given the current situation in the land of whirlpools, he had no interest in visiting Whirlpool Village. Alright, let's talk as we walk. Those who are family know their own situation best. Even before the Whirlpool Tree C, he was just putting on a brave face. It would be best to get to the point quickly. Kazama then walked along, reporting on his journey, including being chased by Jonin and Shunin, being rescued by Akabane, and then meeting Uzumaki Mito, etc. You mean, this book? Oh no, the comic book. Whirlpool Tree C looked at the book, then at Akabane, his face full of doubt. What information could a child's book possibly contain? That's what the princess said. Kazama Seiko said respectfully. After listening, Shuhai turned to the first page. Nine-tailed fox? Isn't that a tailed beast from Konoha? Immediately, he realized the first Jinchuriki of Konoha was none other than Mito Uzumaki. However, this is. The nine-tailed fox escaped, and its descendant turned out to be a fool who couldn't even master the art of creating clones. Even if my Uzumaki clan declines, it will never come to this. When I saw this part of Whirlpool Tree C, I was so angry that I almost tore the book up. Seeing his angry expression, Akabane remained calm and answered without any nervousness, "Oh, that's what you think? The land of whirlpools is indeed facing difficulties, but it is impossible for them to wipe out our clan. Whirlpool Tree C is very confident. Each ninja in their clan possesses formidable strength,
making them extremely difficult to exterminate. Hiruzen Sarutobi remained silent, calmly smoking and watching the show, while Akabane chuckled and shook his head in silence.
Why are you laughing?
The Whirlpool Tree C sneered, I'm not exaggerating. If the Land of Water wants to destroy my Whirlpool country, they'll have to wait until their next life.
What if it's not just the Land of Water?
The Land of Whirlpools has been content with its corner of the world for too long, so long that you can no longer see yourselves clearly.
Akabane showed no mercy.
Anyway, he's just a kid. If you really anger him, Hiruzen Sarutobi will definitely try to evade the question.
There's nothing to worry about.
Anyone else who wants to deal with us will have to get through the Land of Fire first.
The Land of Fire is allied with you? I had no idea.
Before he could finish speaking, Orochimaru interrupted him.
Us?
The swirling sea of trees was pointing at Hiruzen Sarutobi when it suddenly dawned on them they had allied with Konoha, not the Land of Fire.
Hey, Shuai, children say the darndest things, don't take it too seriously.
Hiruzen Sarutobi jumped up to cover things up, lest the Uzumaki forest become too hopeless. As the head of a clan, he wouldn't hold a grudge against a child. Looking at this book again now, the Whirlpool Tree C felt more and more that what was depicted in it might very well be the future of the Whirlpool clan. The country was destroyed, the family perished, and the tradition was severed. He took a deep breath and sat down listlessly.
If the Land of Fire were to make a move, could the Land of Whirlpools withstand it?
Even with Konoha as an ally, Konoha still can't send too many people if the Land of Fire wants to take action.
No wonder only you came.
Whirlpool Tree C opened the manga again, read a few pages, and then closed his eyes in anguish.
At that moment, he understood everything. Why did Konoha send only Hiruzen Sarutobi with a few genin after learning of the Land of Whirlpool's predicament, and even then, under the guise of escorting a merchant caravan? Shuhai, it's not too late to understand now. You can preserve the future of your family to the greatest extent possible.
Sarutobi Hiruzen said.
And then? Where can we go if we survive?
The hidden village and the nation need to cooperate, but they also need to find a balance. If the Land of Fire truly trusted Konoha, the 12 Guardian Shinobi would no longer be necessary. If the Uzumaki clan were to join Konoha, I'm afraid those involved are often blinded by their own perspective. After seeing everything clearly in the Whirlpool Tree C, the fear in his heart only intensified.
Is it so serious? Page 38. Tsunade was stunned.
She thought it was just an ordinary disaster, but now it sounded like the calamity of national destruction.
A Jinchuriki, sigh.
The Whirlpool Tree C is a complicated story.
Their problem isn't their location or national strength, but rather their Jinchuriki, human spirit masters.
The perfect Jinchuriki is someone every village wants to have, and no village wants anyone else to have.
Thus, disaster was inevitable.
The more he thought about it, the more terrifying the comic book author's vision seemed, especially since the author was right in front of him and was only 9 years old.
Young master, what do you think is the future of our Whirlpool clan?
Whirlpool Tree C, he asked hesitantly.
Separate the family and change names and surnames. Akabane kept giving Tsunade meaningful glances. Does this mean the Senju clan?
The Whirlpool Tree C paused for a moment, then pondered the possibilities. If it's the Senju clan and they're few in number, the daimyo really wouldn't dare to be so disrespectful.
Yes.
They can also arrange marriages.
Young sir, I remember you are from the Kurama clan?
He stared at Akabane with intense fervor in his eyes. The inheritance of bloodlines cannot be passed down haphazardly. These individuals before us are undoubtedly exceptional people.
That one with premature gray hair doesn't count. Uzumaki Tree C had his eye on Orochimaru and Akabane, especially Akabane. The Kurama clan was physically weak and needed the Uzumaki clan's constitution to improve the bloodline of the next generation.
Perfect.
Akabane felt a little uneasy under the old man's gaze. After a moment's thought, he immediately understood what the old man was up to. No. I'm still just a child. Chapter 46 Light, supple, and easy. Young master, the Kurama clan is weak and frail, while the physique of my Uzumaki clan goes without saying, doesn't it?
The Whirlpool Tree C enthusiastically touted the benefits of the Whirlpool clan. Furthermore, the Kurama clan's illusion techniques combined with the Whirlpool clan's sealing techniques.
Hoo ho ho!
Hiruzen Sarutobi let out a strange laugh, but had no intention of interrupting or stopping him.
Sealing technique plus illusion? That's a good idea, and we can also get the blood of the Uzumaki clan.
No, I just want the blood. Old Ghost wants to stuff his whole body into my hands.
Akabane quickly shook his head. These conditions are too outrageous.
Even if the blood of the Vortex clan could really reduce the points requirement, he would never agree to them.
The girls in our clan are all very cute, wouldn't you like to consider it?
It's a great pity that the Whirlpool Tree C is gone.
Hey, that's not how you behave.
Tsunade's expression was strange, her eyes shifting back and forth between Akabane and the sea of trees.
Don't even think about it, I won't agree. Akabane immediately said. Actually the Uzumaki clan is pretty good too. Orochimaru said gleefully.
Whirlpool Tree C turned around and said with a smile, all right, this young man looks quite extraordinary.
There are many girls in the clan, you can consider him. What about me?
Jiraiya joined in. He was interested in girls but not his wife, he was just chiming in for the sake of it. Whirlpool Tree C glanced at him but didn't say anything. When Orochimaru saw that he was being targeted, his face turned pale, and he dared not say another word.
Okay, that was just a joke.
Hiruzen Sarutobi tapped his pipe on the table, and the scene immediately fell silent. A few seconds later, the Whirlpool Tree C felt something was off.
Isn't this Wuchao village? Why does it feel like Hiruzen Sarutobi is the true master?
After a moment of silence, the third Hokage continued, some of the Uzumaki clan members will be sent to Konoha.
I can speak to the daimyo about that.
As for the land of whirlpools, he didn't answer, but the meaning was clear. Even if Konoha wanted to help, it would be extremely difficult. It's already quite good that we can preserve some of our bloodline, how could we dare to ask for more?
Uzumaki Shukai sighed. Kazama Sasaki mentioned that you've also acquired quite a few manga?
Yes, Patriarch.
Kazama stepped forward nervously. You can use the small house next to the gate temporarily.
I will also send someone to arrange accommodations for you all.
Thank you, Patriarch. Kazama Sakai thanked him with great joy.
Akabane felt that this old man had ill intentions and was about to sneak away when Hiruzen Sarutobi called him back. Akabane, you stay and come with me to explore Yuzushio village.
What? What the hell?
Akabane looked at Hiruzen Sarutobi suspiciously, wondering what his visit to Yuzushio village had to do with him.
Teacher, what about us? Tsunade's tone was a little sour. Practice. Hiruzen Sarutobi said calmly, you are far too weak.
I will assign a shadow clone so you can hunt down rogue ninjas around Yuzushio village.
Seeing blood is something a ninja will inevitably experience sooner or later.
Although they killed several Chunin last time, they might have been injured long ago if it weren't for Sakumo and Shursho's help.
Yes. Orochimaru's face lit up with joy.
Now, his interest in fighting far outweighs his interest in staying in Yuzushio village. There's no need for the teacher to have a clone follow me. I can take down those rogue ninjas on my own.
Idiot, I'd be grateful if you just stayed out of my way.
The somewhat somber atmosphere quickly brightened up after Jiraiya's few words.
Tsunade was in a bad mood, but she still left with them.
She knew that the difference in actual combat was indeed huge, and that these were things that could only be understood through continuous battles.
After watching them leave, Akabane asked calmly, Chief of the Tree Sea clan, teacher, where shall we go for a stroll? Let's go to my house first. Your house?
Akabane stared at the swirling sea of trees, and the scene of this forced matchmaking came to mind again. It was just like a blind date in his past life.
Could it be that there's another girl waiting for me on this trip? Konoha Village, Umbu. Sir, the second volume of Akabane's manga has been released. An ANBU ninja delivered the painting to Danzo. Danzo took it.
This volume had no cover, so it was obviously stolen from the arsenal. He glanced at it, then asked, "How's the investigation going with that jonin the Hokage sent over?" A jonin of Kirigakure, he was trained by the previous wielder of the executioner's blade and is skilled in silent assassination techniques. However, due to his lack of talent, he was not recognized and thus defected from Kirigakure. The secret agents reported back on all the information they had gathered. Danzo tapped his fingers lightly on the table, pondered for a moment, and then asked, "No deeper information?" "Not yet." "Keep checking." After giving the order, the ANBU member disappeared, and Danzo opened the second volume. In the dark underground space, only the sound of turning pages could be heard. He read very quickly, skimming over the first few chapters before gradually stopping when he reached the 9th and 10th chapters. With such a strict mission selection mechanism in Konoha, how could there be an oversight in the level assessment? Danzo sneered, closed the second volume, and then took out a map. After looking at it for a while, he sat down and fell into deep thought. The destruction of the land of whirlpools is inevitable, but if we can intervene in the land of waves and use it as a hidden weapon. In the event of a major war in the future, this place might be a surprise weapon. The key is still in Yuzushio village. The Uzumaki clan cannot be wiped out, at least not now. Danzo thought to himself. He then turned his attention back to the land of whirlpools. "Hiruzen, when you return, the land of whirlpools will be my battlefield." As the Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi couldn't stay in the land of whirlpools for too long. That battlefield would eventually have to be dealt with by the Yambu. "My daughter, Uzumaki Saigetsu." Looking into the girl's big, round eyes, Akabane felt a chill run down his spine. They really are trying to sell their daughter. But she's only 6 years old, isn't that going too far? "Daughter, the comic in your hand was drawn by Brother Akabane. Do you like it?" He squatted down in the whirlpool tree sea and spoke to his daughter gently and kindly. "Thank you, Brother Akabane." Whirlpool Chinue, clutching the comic book, called out sweetly. "No. No need." Akabane covered his face. How could the whirlpool tree sea bear to push such a young child into a pit of fire? "Okay, Akabane, you stay with Kiyotsuki for a while. I have something important to discuss with Hiruzen." The whirlpool tree sea smiled cunningly. Page 39. Well. Akabane knew perfectly well what the old man was up to, but he had no choice but to bite the bullet and agree. Chinue was very well behaved. She sat down with the comic book in her hands and stared at the picture quietly. At 6 years old, she already recognizes the vast majority of characters. Akabane stared at her for a few seconds, a slight feeling welling up inside him. To be honest, although Uzumaki Saigetsu is young, her features and face are all excellent. In terms of lowly form, she might be even cuter than Tsunade. In terms of appearance, Tsunade is slightly better, but her superhuman strength and gambling skills are really not related to a lowly. Chinue is different. Light, flexible, and easy to move. Cough cough cough. What's wrong, Brother Akabane? Is your throat itchy? Let me get you some water. No need, you can continue reading. Akabane hurriedly denied it, while simultaneously banishing those dangerous thoughts from his mind. Chapter 47. Make her take your surname. Let me pour it for you. My dad said we should serve tea when guests come. Chinue tiptoed and poured a glass of water from the table. When he held it in his hand, he saw that there were a few unknown petals floating on it, and it smelled sweet and fragrant. Is this little girl from the Uzumaki clan really that good at taking care of people? Cute, considerate, polite, and caring, she's practically every otaku's ideal woman. Oh no, I'm starting to feel my heart flutter. Brother Akabane, why does Naruto have blonde hair in the drawing? The little girl seemed a bit strange. In her mind, all members of the Uzumaki clan had beautiful red hair. Because his father was not a member of the Uzumaki clan, his hair was inherited from his father. Akabane answered very patiently. What is heredity? It means certain traits of parents can be passed on to the next generation. Oh, then how come Naruto can't even master the shadow clone technique? We Uzumaki clan members are all very talented, and these techniques are easy for us to master. After asking him a few questions, Akabane realized what it felt like to be a father.
Pain. He sighed. There are no perfect little girls in the world.
No matter how cute and considerate they are, a child is still a child. Brother is so amazing, he knows so much. As she watched and asked questions, the little girl grew increasingly enamored with Akabane.
Well, I usually read a lot of books. Akabane answered shamelessly.
The little girl doesn't know Akabane's true nature. If she were to switch places with Tsunade, she might immediately scoff and then mock him.
By the way, where is your mother? The two elders were shamelessly inside, probably discussing the personnel going to Konoha.
Akabane had a premonition that this little girl might be forced into the Kurama clan, so it was necessary to know about their family background beforehand. Like Naruto, my mother died when I was young.
The little girl answered without much sadness.
Little Chinue, your brother has a lot of comics at home.
If I asked you to come to my house to play, would you go? Really? The little girl's eyes lit up instantly, but then she glanced worriedly into the room.
Chinue, don't worry, they are all my friends.
If you want to go, you can stay for a while.
At this moment, the whirlpool tree sea emerged.
Really? What about you, Dad? The village needs me, how can I leave?
Whirlpool tree sea stroked her hair, his face gentle and kind. As the clan leader, he could provide a livelihood for his daughter, but he couldn't run away first, otherwise the entire Whirlpool clan would collapse.
Well, let me think about it some more.
Think about it slowly, brother.
I'll stay in the village for a while.
It's such a pity that the little girl has to die on the battlefield, but of course, we just clicked at first sight.
Imagine yourself painting, and a little girl next to you helps you mix the paints. Wow, my brain is trembling. Cough, cough, cough.
Hiruzen Sarutobi coughed a few times, covering his mouth, and also secretly kicked Akabane. Akabane quickly composed himself to avoid revealing his true feelings. He felt a strange unease. I was clearly just daydreaming, so how did the third Hokage realize it?
I'll have to ask about it later.
Akabane glanced at the whirlpool tree sea. Thankfully his father hadn't noticed, otherwise he probably wouldn't have felt comfortable letting Kiyotsuki follow him.
Why do I care so much? He fell into deep thought. Had he been tricked? Akaba, let's go out first. Sarutobi Hiruzen said calmly. Is teacher? Following them outside, they found Hiruzen Sarutobi standing in the yard smoking. Akabane asked the question that had been bothering him. Teacher, how did you notice that I was daydreaming? The way you daydream is just like Jiraiya. Damn it!
Akabane's expression froze. This was the greatest insult imaginable.
Leaving aside idle talk, what do you think about the Uzumaki Forest's decision to send some children to various clans in Konoha?
Hiruzen Sarutobi smoked a cigarette, his face devoid of any hint of jest. Akabane also became serious, and after thinking for a moment, he said, it will benefit Konoha. If the Nine Tails is released by someone with ulterior motives in the future, we can use the Uzumaki clan to seal it again. When the tailed beast within a Jinchuriki breaks free of its seal, it means he will face the end of his life.
This is Danzo's way of thinking. What do you think? Hiruzen Sarutobi continued to ask. Anyway, it has little to do with me.
If the daimyo blames me, the Hokage will take the fall.
I can just sell my manga. Akabane said lazily.
Perhaps most people in the village share your idea, but there's a small minority.
Hiruzen Sarutobi exhales smoke.
As the Hokage, he can see through most situations, so what he needs is not real advice, but someone to talk to help him peel back the layers and analyze the situation.
This small group of people might be from the Uchiha, Hyuga, or other clans.
The integration of any small faction will cause instability in the situation.
As for the Uchiha clan, they'll be unhappy whether the Uzumaki clan joins Konoha or not. The Hyuga clan, with the Uchiha in their backs, won't dare say anything. Akabane mentioned Hyuga, and then said no more.
The current third generation has just ascended to the throne and is at the peak of their power. The voices of smaller families can be largely ignored, especially since they are just a few children, and the likelihood of them causing a public backlash is low. After Chinue goes to Konoha, if something really happens in the land of whirlpools, you should comfort her and, if possible, persuade her to change her surname.
Hey, what do you mean by that? Akabane's expression changed.
When a woman gets married, she changes her surname to her husband's surname. The meaning behind the 3 generations word sounds rather strange.
Literal meaning.
Hiruzen Sarutobi said, the daimyo has been making a lot of moves lately. First, he transferred ninjas to protect him, and now it seems he wants to establish a guardian ninja. He still needs to do some of the pretense.
Guardian ninja? The future guardian ninja 12, huh? Akabane thought to himself.
If that's the case, then it's no wonder that Konoha didn't do much during this period in the original story. Later on, only Kushina Uzumaki came, while many others fled and married ordinary people. He pondered for a moment, but still couldn't come up with a solution. But I'm glad you changed your attitude. The third Hokage reached out to touch Akabane's hair, but was nimbly dodged. She was such a lovely girl, it's a pity she died in the war.
Akabane sighed.
The more this was the case, the more he understood how precious Konoha's peace was. Especially for a time traveler to arrive in such an era, it's already considered very lucky.
Very good. As a reward, I will teach you an illusion spell. He smiled.
In the third Hokage's view, Akabane's actions stemmed entirely from his own sense of truth, goodness, and beauty, which was enough to prove that his thoughts were not aligned with Danzo's dark ideology. Therefore, he decided to give Akabane a ninjutsu.
Oh? What technique? Akabane glanced at him.
Although the third generation society had many illusion techniques, there were very few that were worth considering.
Hiruzen Sarutobi said calmly, it's a ninjutsu that my teacher taught me.
The third generation's teacher was an inventor of forbidden techniques. Akabane's eyes lit up, that guy's ninjutsu really wasn't all trash. The third Hokage then swiftly formed hand seals, drawing in chakra.
Illusion technique, darkness travel technique. Chapter 48 Humanoid Radar. Page 40. Visual deprivation. Instantly, everything went black.
Akabane took a deep breath, quickly mobilized his mental energy to calm the chakra within his body, and his vision gradually returned.
So, are you interested in learning?
Hiruzen Sarutobi smiled slightly. He didn't really have many illusion techniques to his name, but the dark travel technique was different. It was very practical, especially when dealing with certain families.
Of course. It would be truly wise not to accept something given away for free.
Akabane listened attentively and quickly memorized the hand seals and the techniques for manipulating chakra and spiritual energy in this illusion technique. However, this is an A-level illusion technique, and it would probably take a long time for him to learn it on his own.
He glanced at the exchange list. The name Darkness Travel Technique did not appear on it. I can only practice by myself?
He smacked his lips regretfully. To master A-level illusion magic, I'd be exhausted these days, and besides, I don't lack illusion techniques.
Forget it, I'd rather draw a few more pictures than use this time.
Akabane comforted himself inwardly.
Hiruzen Sarutobi didn't know what Akabane was thinking, but based on his personality, it wasn't hard to guess Akabane's next goal.
Really?
Teacher, where will we stay next?
Having not lain down all day, and with it almost noon, he really wanted to find a place to take a good nap.
We can talk about practicing ninjutsu later. Drawing is so tiring, I'll just let my clone do it.
I can mainly focus on resting. No rush, practice your illusion magic more. Hiruzen Sarutobi said with a smile.
Akabane chuckled coldly. Did he think he could force him to practice illusion magic this way?
He turned and walked out of the courtyard. I'll go check how the comics are selling. Finding a caravan at least provides a place to stay, which is always more comfortable than standing still.
Hiruzen Sarutobi's expression was stiff.
He only smacked his lips and took a drag of his cigarette after Hiruzen left.
If only this kid could be a little more diligent. Akabane left the courtyard and went to the village entrance to meet up with the caravan.
Although he was a stranger, no one made things difficult for him on his way out because he came from the clan chief's house. He finally saw Kazama Sakai and his group when he reached the village entrance.
Move the cabinet a bit, yes, right, put it here. Kazama Sakai loudly directed his men to quickly set up the house.
This room had been vacant for a while, and a lot of dust had accumulated on it. It took them quite a bit of time to clean it.
But what kind of junk are you putting out here?
Akabane almost threw up when he saw the shop's decor.
Mr. Akabane, you feel something's not right? Kazama asked in astonishment.
As he spoke, he turned back for a glance, his suspicions growing stronger.
No matter how you look at it, it seems correct.
If the store is decorated so ugly, customers will feel uncomfortable just looking at it, let alone buy anything.
Do you even know what symmetry is? Akabane looked constipated.
He wasn't obsessive-compulsive, but the way the objects were arranged so haphazardly was an insult to his status as an art student.
It's just decorations, is it really that exaggerated? Kazama Sakazuki pondered for a long time but still couldn't understand what he meant.
Akabane turned around once, then took out his pen and paper and quickly sketched a draft. He then tossed the sketch into Kazama's left hand.
Press this.
Kazama Sakai glanced at it carefully for a few moments, then had the arrangements made accordingly. With a sketch in hand, everyone set it up very quickly.
Before long, the small house gradually became orderly.
The cabinets were neatly arranged on both sides, and a table was placed in the middle, with comic books arranged on it.
Sir, it really does look much better. Kazama Satoshi exclaimed in surprise. Not enough.
Akabane looked inside from the outside and shook his head with some regret. A few posters were missing. He pondered for a moment, and an idea came to him. When you go to promote it, tell those people that not only can you buy comics here, but you can also randomly get hand-drawn portraits. Akabane formed hand seals, and identical shadow clones appeared beside him.
Okay, I'll get on it right away. Kazama Satoshi agreed.
The ninjas of Yuzushio village went out, but their families were still there.
Kazama Sasaki's target audience for his manga is this group.
So he immediately went there, carrying a comic book, and started selling it to each household. In front of the shop, the shadow clone set up the tools, sat down, and began mixing paints.
Street art.
Akabane's solution was to draw the poster on the spot, then frame it and put it in the shop, killing two birds with one stone.
As for the real person.
After moving the comics onto the cart, Akabane spread out a few sheets of paper and lay down on them. It's a pity that the second volume was still being printed when it came out, otherwise, if the first and second volumes were sold together, we could have made a lot of points.
He thought to himself. Judging by the timeline, the second volume from Konoha should be going on sale soon.
Akabane doesn't want to go back to Konoha for the time being. The third Hokage in Danzo will keep him here anyway. If you accumulate enough points to exchange for the Sharingan or a partial immortal physique, your survivability will be greatly enhanced.
You can never have too much of a life-saving ability. Akabane thought to himself.
Until now, he has never used the fireball technique, the fog concealment technique, or the silent assassination technique. These will be his trump cards on the battlefield in the future.
If we want lasting peace, we won't need these ninjutsu techniques. What a pity.
Akabane lay on the car, his gaze fixed on the trees and flowers. For him now, lying down and resting is the most precious day. Perhaps tomorrow, like the future Sannin, he will pitifully go out to hunt down rogue ninja. As the task was completed, the surroundings gradually quieted down, leaving only the sounds of the workers diligently working. Akabane lay down on it, slowly drifting off to sleep.
Just then, footsteps came from the ground in the flatbed truck in a noisy and chaotic manner. Then, these sounds became clearer and clearer.
Akabane turned to the side and looked up in the car, and a group of children came running up behind him.
Only children?
He paused for a moment.
Although children are most easily lured by comics, if it's just children, who will pay for it? Are you suggesting we do charity work?
Brother Akabane, Uncle Sarutobi was right, you really came here. Suddenly, a crisp sound rang out. What is this sound? Akabane immediately lay down and slowly looked up at the shadow clone. A group of children arrived, and leading the way was none other than the little girl from the clan chief's family. Wow, is the third Hokage getting revenge? Akabane felt extremely uncomfortable and, while shrinking back, secretly used his transformation technique. However, hey, this is the real Akabane Nia. His gaze swept upwards, and Akabane saw an innocent, youthful face. He was certain that he had used a transformation technique. Didn't your brother give you a comic book? He sat up and coughed somewhat awkwardly. I came to find Akabane Nia, but I heard from Kazama-san that you were drawing. Shin-US said. She seemed to have come without anyone leading the way, which might indicate her ability is perception. He thought to himself. In the manga, Karen possesses powerful sensory abilities, which, combined with the special ninjutsu Kagura's mind's eye, make her a veritable human radar. Such capabilities are a devastating weapon on the battlefield. Akabane was shocked and worried at the same time. With such a talent, could she grow up safely? Images of the third Hokage, Danzo, and others flashed through his mind. If these people knew, they probably wouldn't let her live a peaceful life. Chapter 49 Ha, Lullicon. He's drawing. It looks like a red-haired person. Wow, it looks great. At this moment, gasps of surprise came from the children watching. Shin-US looked around curiously, but seemed afraid that Chiyu would run away, and was very conflicted for a moment. He's drawing people from the Uzumaki clan.